See, Chen is a regressor who returned from a future where the entire world was conquered by demons. He was the last survivor, fighting for years until he finally defeated the Demon King by self-destructing alongside him. Then, after a blinding light, he wakes up back in the past inside his dorm room. He feels confused and wonders if he has somehow reached the afterlife. But when he looks outside the window and sees people standing there, he slowly starts to realize what happened. After a moment, it finally hits him that his wish came true. He has gone back in time to his university days from 10 years ago. Just then, a strange hologram appears and tells Chen that the power of gluttony has been fully integrated. As he stares out the window, he realizes he has 3 years left before the first demon lord, Wrath, descends. He clearly remembers that this demon lord was responsible for everything that followed. Wrath was the one who opened the gates of hell, allowing the other demon lords to enter the human world one after another. Our hero decides that he must find where Demon Lord Wrath will appear and eliminate him before the gates can even open. Snapping out of his thoughts, Chen focuses on the floating interface beside him, which clearly displays his stats. He wonders if this is some kind of game menu or system, since he never had anything like this in his past life. Back then, he only relied on his awakened power, something only 1 in 10,000 people possessed. The National Awakener University was built to recruit these potential awakeners. Unfortunately, when Chen was here the first time, he completely failed to awaken and grew used to being bullied, which explains why he just woke up in the infirmary. Suddenly, the system opens another panel showing a lightning-type assassin card, which he instantly recognizes as the class he had in his previous life. He gets startled and wonders if he awakened earlier this time. He quickly decides to test it out, but before he can switch classes, his roommate and friend Ma Long shows up. Long is an E-rank flower chanter. The poor guy has bandages on his cheek and came to check if Chen is okay. Luckily, Long cannot see the floating panels, making Chen realize that only he can see them. His friend examines him closely, noticing that all of Chen's injuries have already disappeared. He wonders how a non-awakener is recovering faster than someone like him who already awakened. Chen remembers Long from his previous life. His roommate managed to awaken during university, yet he ended up as one of the weakest awakeners and was brutally murdered on the 3rd day after Wrath descended. Chen smiles quietly as he looks at his old friend again. Long then reminds him that their rank test is tomorrow and they need to get ready. Long feels bad for Chen, thinking he still hasn't awakened, but reminds him that this test is extremely important if he wants to graduate. As they walk through the lively streets, Chen casually mentions that it has been a long time since he saw so many people around, which scares the hell out of his roommate. Chen thinks to himself that if he does nothing in this life, they will all face the same miserable future again. Because of that, he decides to train as hard as possible and raise his level quickly. However, there is a problem. At this point in time, the only way for an awakener to gain experience and level up is by defeating monsters inside demon lairs. These lairs are completely controlled by major guilds, meaning weak people or outsiders like him have almost no chance to level up. He opens his status window and studies his stats, wondering where he stands compared to other awakeners and the monsters themselves. The government classifies awakeners into ranks, starting from E and going all the way up to S class. Chen knows that most students in the university are stuck at E rank, with only a few barely reaching D rank. He glances at his friend and quietly chuckles in his head, feeling confident that he at least ranks higher than him. Just then, a ball suddenly flies in and smacks straight into the poor nerd, knocking his glasses off and shattering them. It turns out they ran into the bully Gong Chung and his lackeys again, the same guys who beat them up just the day before. Chung smirks and asks him why he didn't bring crates of drinks when he already knew they were playing here. Long quickly apologizes and is about to buy the drinks with his own money, but Chen steps in and stops him, saying that the one who should be apologizing is actually Cheng. Seeing the bully again pulls Chen right back into his painful memories. Back then, they tried to drown him in a sink. Instead of feeling guilty, they claimed they were just forcing him to awaken. That day, they only stopped when Chen finally passed out. Long rushed to check on him, but the moment Chung heard Chen speak, he came right back to hurt him even more. Snapping out of his memories, Chen makes up his mind to teach these bullies a proper lesson. Hearing Chen speak up, Chung and his lackeys step forward, clearly ready to shut him up for good. Chen looks straight at Cheng, knowing the guy only picks on the weak because his older brother is the student council president. As the bully steps closer, a crowd of students gathers around. They already feel sorry for Chen, expecting him to get beaten up again. When Chung reaches him, he asks what Chen just said. Without backing down, Chen calmly repeats that they need to stop bothering him from now on. Furious, Chung loses his temper and throws a punch straight at him. But this time, Chen simply raises his fist and blocks the attack with ease, even pushing the bully back. Everyone watching is shocked. As far as they know, Chen has not even awakened, yet he just stopped a strong attack like it was nothing. Growing even more angry, Chung rushes in for another attack. Chen calmly prepares himself and switches his class to Electric Assassin. Long stands nearby, completely stunned. Meanwhile, Chung activates his indestructible demon armor and charges forward with a heavy strike. Before he can even get close, Chen dashes in and blasts him away with a lightning-charged punch. The crowd cannot believe their eyes. The so-called weakling just sent the school bully flying with a single punch. Even after taking such a hit, Chung refuses to back down. He shouts at his lackeys to step in and get revenge for him. However, his lackeys are already shaking in fear after seeing what Chen just did. Chung forces himself back to his feet and charges at Chen once again. But once more, he gets beaten down and slammed away without standing a chance. Watching their boss get crushed like this, the lackeys quickly realize they are outmatched and run away. Long, watching all of this unfold, is left speechless. His jaw drops as he struggles to accept that his roommate, who was easily beaten just yesterday, is suddenly this strong. Chen, on the other hand, realizes that just like in his past life, he can switch into his assassin state whenever he wants. Even at level 1, his stats are high enough to handle low-level awakeners. This means his current rank must be at least D class. However, there is still one thing he needs to confirm. Even after defeating someone, the system has not given him a level up. Curious about this, Chen steps forward to finish the bully off completely, causing everyone around to watch in panic. Right at the final moment, the vice president of the student council, Ling Yu, steps in and tells Chen to stop. She reminds him that even though Chung was at fault, this level of beating is already more than enough. She assures him that the bully will not dare to trouble him again. Because of this, Chen finally decides to let him go. As he backs off, Chen wonders why the student council is so eager to step in and save someone like Chung. Even though Chen was just putting on an act and didn't actually plan to kill him, he knows that bullies like Chung need to be punished properly. Otherwise, they will just keep targeting anyone weaker than them again and again. Chen then walks away with his roommate. Watching from a distance, the bullies' lackeys hide and whisper among themselves that they should never provoke Chen again. That night, Long tries to tell their other roommates how Chen awakened as a ridiculously strong lightning assassin, but none of them take his words seriously. Long keeps explaining how their once weak friend managed to beat Chung so badly, but Xiang Zuo, an E-ranked nucleus mage, treats it like a joke. Zuo asks why Chen is still running around training like this if he has really become such a big deal. He argues that a real awakener would not need to rely on basic physical training anymore. Hearing this, the gamer roommate Xiang Yu comments that it sounds like Long must have taken a serious hit to the head. Zuo continues, saying that the 4 of them are placed in this dorm because they are the weakest students at the bottom, and nothing they do will change that. He even claims that he is the strongest among the 4 of them, while Long and Yu are just support chanters. He flexes a little, telling himself there is no way Chen could have actually become a lightning assassin. Feeling more confident than ever, he hopes that he might even rank up during the final test before their graduation tomorrow. At an E-ranked demon lair, the student council president Gong Ting finishes his training session and walks out with Ling Yu. He notices his younger brother still standing there and asks what he is doing. Chung complains that as long as the guy who beat him is still around, he cannot even sleep peacefully. He keeps pushing his brother, begging him to get revenge for him. Ting calmly assures him that he will handle the mess he created. Sitting at the dining table, the vice president asks Ting how he plans to deal with this situation. Ting just asks her if the boy is really as strong as his brother claims. Ling Yu reminds Ting that there are fewer than 10 D-ranked students in the entire school, and Ting has already recruited all of them into his club. She adds that other students do not even have access to demon lairs like he does, meaning no average guy should be able to stand against him. Back outside, Chen keeps running like crazy while getting completely drenched in the rain. He sets a goal to run 20 full kilometers while carrying a bag loaded with 100 kilos, which is almost twice his own weight. He understands how important basic training is for raising an awakener's strength limit, since a stronger body is needed to handle high-level powers. As he runs, he remembers how his sister, his only family, was killed when the Demon King Wrath descended upon the human world. The Demon Lord slaughtered countless humans in an instant, and his sister died right in front of his eyes. He makes defeating this Demon King his main goal, since that moment was the start of all the destruction. Chen knows that the Demon Lord is already growing stronger, even with 3 years left before his arrival. Because of this, Chen needs to grow even faster if he wants any chance of winning. Right at that moment, his sister Siyun calls him. Hearing her voice again after so long leaves him completely silent for a moment. She explains that she could not call earlier because she was busy with a competition. She adds that their rent problem might be fixed if she manages to win a prize. While she keeps talking, Chen quietly listens and smiles. He feels a strong promise in his heart to protect her and give her the life she deserves this time around. After the call ends, he returns to his training and completes 3 more laps around the university. Once he is done, he heads straight for a shower, feeling that he is slowly getting used to this younger body and its strong potential for growth. He sits down and starts thinking about the demon lairs, which only rich people can access. He knows that he will need to defeat monsters somehow in order to grow stronger. While thinking about this problem, he eventually falls asleep and finds himself pulled into the gluttony system. He lands in a strange place and starts wondering if this is just some kind of weird dream. Back outside, Long looks for Chen and wonders where he has disappeared to. Inside the strange space, Chen sees a massive tower standing right in front of him. Before he can get a good look at it, a group of E-rank cloud warriors called Death Hounds appears to greet him. Chen worries that he somehow entered a demon lair and quickly switches his class. Since the monsters appeared out of nowhere, he decides to deal with them first and figure out the rest later. He easily takes down the weak hounds, since they are all bark and no bite, and collects their dropped items. He quickly reaches level 2 and smiles, thinking he might have gotten lucky by stumbling into a demon lair. A boss monster shows up next, but Chen defeats it just as easily. He cuts right through it, allowing him to level up again. The experience points he gets from the boss are much higher than what the normal monsters gave him earlier. The boss monster's body then gets marked as devourable, making Chen wonder what that means. He remembers the gluttony skill he saw earlier on his system panel and reaches out his hand to test it. The devouring finishes instantly, and the monster gets absorbed into a card. Chen is shocked to realize he can turn defeated monsters into new classes he can use. He quickly realizes this is the exact same ability the Demon Lord Lan Yu had. The thought of having a power just like a Demon Lord leaves him shaken. In this world, most people are born with only one class, while a rare few might have two. However, Chen can now hold as many classes as he wants. He wonders how he got this crazy power and what the dark tower in front of him really is. While he thinks about all this, he feels a strong presence, and a new demon appears holding 2 S-rank blades. The demon is clearly an S-rank, meaning Chen has no real chance of winning. Knowing he is badly outmatched, Chen still summons a lightning sword to fight back and gamble for his life. Strangely, the demon standing in front of him somehow knows his name. The demon trades blows with Chen, but it is clear that the monster is only toying with him. It avoids hitting his vital points on purpose and just keeps knocking him down over and over. After pushing Chen to his limit, the demon finally speaks. It tells Chen he can survive if he stays and guards the tower with it. Chen refuses the offer, so the demon brutally slashes his arm. The demon threatens to finish him off. It explains that it only went easy on him because Chen is the only person who could reach this place. It asks him to think about it one more time, but Chen does not lose hope. He refuses again, ignoring the danger he is in. He shouts and charges forward, determined to fight back, and attacks the demon again. During the whole fight, Chen has been studying the demon's movements. He noticed a 0.4-second delay before every swing. He knows he can use that tiny window of time to watch the angle of the monster's wrist and dodge the attack perfectly. He also found a 0.2-second recovery pause where the demon is defenseless. He plans to use that short opening to aim right for its heart. Even though he manages to pull off this risky move, he knows a D rank like him cannot truly beat an S rank. His real goal is to paralyze the demon just long enough so he can escape. He does exactly that and runs toward the only light he can see, hoping it is a way out. But just as he reaches the light, it vanishes. The demon tells him it was just an illusion and that there is no exit in this place. The demon explains that this palace is not actually a demon lair at all. However, it praises Chen for finding the flaws in its attacks so quickly. The demon reveals itself as the Purgatory Rakshasa. It tells Chen that he really is the one who can bring hope. As Chen takes a closer look at the demon's body, he gets a shock. He realizes he has seen this exact same look before on the Demon Lord Lan Yu. Our hero remembers the final battle before he went back in time. His opponent in that fight was no ordinary demon. During their fight, the creature first turned into a dragon. Then it kept changing into other scary high-level monsters. It used boiling magma, poisonous vines, and lightning that was even stronger than his own. But out of all those forms, the one that really caught his attention looked exactly like the demon standing in front of him right now. He realizes something shocking. Every single transformation must have been part of Demon King Lan Yu's power. Since that power is now inside him, the demon he sees right now is just the power of gluttony absorbed into his own body. His smart guess really impresses the demon. It calmly tells him that he is truly worthy of inheriting the power of this entire dimension. Chen frowns, confused about what it means by the entire dimension. A golden void key appears in the demon's hand. It is the only way to enter and leave the giant tower behind him. The demon explains that Demon King Lan Yu ate countless powerful monsters. Its sacred duty was to guard the tower that traps the strongest ones among them. Now, it decides to give that key to him. Rakshasa wants him to eat those demons, grow stronger, and take over its mission. Confused, Chen asks why a demon would ever help a human. The creature replies that even in the demon world, there are good guys and bad guys. One evil monster killed its whole clan just for fun. Since that day, it has waited for a chance to get revenge on that monster. Now, it believes it has found the right person to grant that wish. It tells our boy that someone was right about him being their best hope for revenge. Chen immediately asks who that person is. The demon just replies that all the answers are waiting inside the tower, speaking in a mysterious tone like an old sage. With its final words, it offers all of its remaining energy to him. In return, the demon tells him that he must become the strongest human on the planet. It will not be easy to eat every single wild beast hiding inside the tower. Each of those smart creatures will be a huge challenge to beat. The demon gives its final warning, saying that only someone with a strong hunger to grow stronger deserves Purgatory Rakshasa's power. That is the drive he needs to kill every demon king in existence. After saying that, the demon's body turns into a burning ball of energy for Chen to absorb. Chen immediately levels up 8 times and gets 2 of Rakshasa's swords. Without hesitation, he accepts the mission, promising to carry out the fallen warrior's final wish. Along with the stat boosts, he unlocks the ability to control gravity and absorb power from dead humans and demons. The next morning, he slowly opens his eyes, waking up inside his dorm like any normal day. He jumps up when a loud voice echoes through the room. His roommates are already getting ready and tell him to hurry up if he wants to get to school on time. When he notices his body is completely fine, he wonders if everything he experienced was just a weird dream. But his updated stats prove that is not the case. Everything he saw was real. After jumping from level 2 to level 10 overnight, he wonders what rank he is now. His roommate begins making fun of him. He mentions how someone was shamelessly praising him the other night, talking about how cool and crazy strong he supposedly became. Ma Long quietly peeks from across the room, pretending he had nothing to do with it. Either way, his roommate challenges him to prove it during the ranking test. That test will decide who is strong enough to keep the title of Dorm King. On the way to school, the self-proclaimed Dorm King proudly tells his friends that every rank is divided into 3 different levels. So even though they are all E ranks, he is at least a proud mid-E rank, placing him above the bottom-tier losers. He walks around acting superior because the gap between each level is supposedly huge. Fired up and way too confident, the guy claims he feels so strong that he must have moved up a level since their last test. Really annoyed, Ma Long tells our boy to stop playing around and go all out to at least get a D rank today. That way, the Dorm King might finally shut up. The boys arrive at school, where everyone is nervously gathered for the ranking ceremony. The bullies walk in like they own the campus, insulting anyone who dares to look at them. Even the Dorm King's confident smile completely disappears the second he sees them. But the bullies also lose their nerve. They immediately start bowing respectfully to Big Brother Chen without hesitation. His roommates slowly begin to realize that maybe everything Ma Long said was not complete nonsense after all. Our boy ignores the bullies and just minds his own business. Another student decides to step in front of him. It is Jian, a student council officer who acts like the school police, and he gives Chen a very polite warning. The student council president personally sent him to punish the guy who dared to hit his precious little brother. All of Chen's friends immediately scatter and hide. They are terrified of Jian, the enforcer who handles all the dirty work for the president. His roommates cannot figure out why this D-rank monster is targeting Chen like this. He steps right into Chen's personal space. The president's loyal follower brags that his great sense of smell lets him judge exactly how strong someone is, and right now, all he smells from him is a weak, pathetic loser. Amused by the insult, our boy fires back without hesitation. Shane completely loses his temper the moment he gets called a dog. Before a fight can actually break out, the overgrown pup's master orders him to stand down so they don't cause a public scene. After doing some digging, he found out that his little brother was the one who started the fight. Getting beaten up was simply the result of picking a fight with someone way out of his league. With that said, the president shoots him a glare sharper than daggers. But our hero isn't intimidated in the slightest. Just then, a professor announces that the rank assessment ceremony is officially starting. He asks all the students to step forward when their names are called. Hearing that, the president tells his lapdog they are leaving. He assumes this was a one-time incident and that Chen won't cause any more problems after being warned. Watching from high above, a man curiously asks the vice president why she is watching the ranking ceremony today. He wonders if a certain rookie has caught her eye. The lady smiles faintly, saying that this year will be quite interesting. Soon, Xiangzhou's name is announced. The Dorm King feels slightly nervous as he steps through the door. The atmosphere completely changes on the other side. The assessment is done one by one inside a special demon lair. In there, a demon heart connected to wires measures an awakener's rank and potential by absorbing their energy. When the awakener releases their full power, the signal transfers back to Earth, revealing their assessment results. The Dorm King's rank turns out to be exactly the same as last time. However, the professor looks confused when his potential score takes longer than expected to show up. Ma Long stares intently at the shifting numbers. After building up all that suspense, Xiangzhou's maximum potential is revealed to be only a C. He walks out looking sad, realizing that all the progress he thought he made was just in his head. His roommates try to comfort him, telling him they are all in the same boat anyway. They are all stuck at E rank, with the potential to reach C rank at best. A few moments later, the president's lapdog walks out proudly. He is still a lower D rank, but he has the potential to reach A rank. Chen's roommates begin to lose hope, since they have already seen nearly 10 students reach D rank. Even the professors are shocked that so many students have reached D rank. It is rare for students without real combat experience to break past E rank. Filled with excitement, they call up the next student. It's the president, who carries everyone's expectations on his shoulders. All eyes turn to Gongting, the student who is already a guild master, as he walks onto the stage. Our boy stays calm and patiently waits for his results. Everyone in the academy knows that Gongting was only a lower D rank 2 years ago. Since the school's historical record for the highest grade is middle D rank, people wonder if the president will finally raise the bar. Inside the demon lair, the demon heart's eyes slowly open to his presence. The president isn't able to unleash everything he has. Still, he has a burning desire to go out with a bang at graduation, carving his name into the history books as #1. When the professors see his potential grade glowing gold, they blink in disbelief. Their suspicions are confirmed as Gongting's high D rank completely blows them away. Not only that, but excitement erupts through the crowd at the sight of the first potential S rank in history. The president's lackeys praise their boss non-stop. Even Chen's roommates burn with jealousy as they watch a legend being born right before their eyes. The professors quietly agree among themselves that this news must be sent to the administration immediately. They need to treat their precious S-rank candidate with the utmost care, making sure he never leaves the country. On top of that, he is the youngest student in the academy to be involved with a guild. Their school's name is now guaranteed to dominate the headlines. Observing from above, Principal Yuan Long realizes that Vice President Ling Yu already knew about his potential. That is exactly why she came in person to watch the ceremony. However, she makes things even more interesting by revealing that he wasn't the only one she came to observe today. Besides the flashy president, there is another student she finds much more interesting. Right on cue, that exact student is the next one called onto the stage. Jean comes up with a bright idea and decides to taunt the mysterious urban legend, urging him not to end up as E-rank trash like his roommates. He says they will become a laughingstock if that happens, adding that it's a disgrace for them to even show up at such a prestigious event. Long backs up his friend and boldly claims that he will knock everyone's socks off. The crowd watches in pure anticipation. Chen finally enters the demon lair, and the demon heart instantly senses intense pressure as he approaches. Our hero recalls that the best way for an awakener to secure a good future is to join a high-ranking guild. He knows the only way to reach that goal is by performing well during the graduation combat assessment. There, candidates must choose their own members to form a 10-person squad. The squad that takes first place gets directly recruited into the nation's top-tier Imperial Guild, making the purpose of this test very clear to everyone. Jian begins recruiting and introduces another low-tier D rank to his boss. He proudly claims that their party is now complete. He explains that they already have all the D ranks along with the president's brother on their team, so there is no way they can lose first place. Jean knows that strong students will naturally group together to form the best party, leaving the weakest to do the same. This creates a brutal environment of survival of the fittest, where the weak are easily cast aside and eliminated. After some time passes, Long starts to feel anxious because the screen isn't changing. The crowd quickly assumes that Chen must be so weak that the system can't even register his presence. Jian then tells Ting that the remaining students are nothing but trash, so they should just leave instead of wasting their time. However, right as they get ready to leave, the screen suddenly flickers and displays a high D rank label, sending the entire crowd into chaos. Shock spreads across everyone's faces. The president and the student council also react in disbelief at this unexpected result. Soon, the system detects a strange change in the results. It turns out Chen is using the system to see how his level 10 base stats in his normal physical form translate during the evaluation. After seeing a D rank, he switches his class to the Infernal Death King, which is his weakest devoured class so far. His rank instantly shifts from high D to mid C, completely blowing the crowd away. The council struggles to believe that the machine is still working properly. Even the scientists question the situation, wondering why the results keep changing. They soon start to suspect that the machine might be broken beyond repair. At that exact moment, the demon heart becomes unstable, and the results change strangely once again. Chen notices this and decides to switch to a stronger class, transforming into the Purgatory Rakshasa. The demon heart grows anxious as a violent storm brews outside the demon lair. Jian shouts in confusion, treating the storm like a celestial sign that history is rewriting itself as if their dorm has produced a divine monster. In the very next moment, his potential flickers to S rank, leaving both the scientists and President Ting completely stunned. However, the system suddenly displays a warning. The user's potential exceeds its maximum load and cannot be detected under the current limits. Jian's brain almost shuts down like a blue screen of death, and his soul nearly leaves his body from pure shock. As the system begins to break apart under the overwhelming pressure, the scientists rush forward in a panic, wanting to ensure the student doesn't get hurt. But when they finally arrive, they freeze in disbelief. They find a shriveled raisin sitting where the demon heart once was, since it completely burned out from extreme overuse. It turns out Chen might have scared it a little too much. Still, he ends up devouring it and gains the ability to see anyone's rank, along with receiving warnings about nearby dangers. He walks out of the demon lair and is pleasantly surprised when everyone's rank appears right in front of him. But he quickly notices that the president has hidden his true potential, turning out to be nothing more than a mediocre C rank at best. The scientists walk out awkwardly and inform everyone that the demon heart suffered a heart attack from extreme strain, so they must pause the testing for now. They label Chen's stats as a probable error and announce that a full report will be sent to the higher-ups for review. The remaining students are told to return the next day for their assessment, as a new testing device will be ready by then. On the way back, Chen's roommates hype him up and treat him like an absolute legend after what he just pulled off in front of everyone. Jean clearly can't handle his jealousy. He calls Chen a fraud and demands compensation for breaking the machine and wasting the council's time, acting like a sore loser. Just as Chen reaches his limit and prepares to destroy the guy on the spot, Ting steps in and immediately calls Jian out. The president warns him not to disrespect their teammate, which completely shocks Jian. Ting then extends his hand, inviting the newly revealed powerhouse to join his team. He confidently promises that together they will undoubtedly achieve the highest score in history. Jean starts to panic in the background. He knows someone will have to get kicked off the team to make room for Chen, and this will definitely cause trouble with the brothers. He knows that joining Ting's team practically guarantees first place. Because of this, he wonders what makes Chen so special, especially when other people could not even bribe their way onto the team no matter how hard they tried. Jean swallows his pride and slowly welcomes Chen to the team, placing a hesitant hand on his shoulder. Chen immediately slaps his hand away and says he has zero interest in joining them. This response makes Jian sweat in fear, while Ting just watches the whole thing in silence. Jean snaps at Chen and says he has no clue what he is turning down, reminding him that their team is easily the best in the whole school. Chen turns his back and walks away. He says it has nothing to do with them and calls their group too noisy to deal with. He tells them not to bother him again. Jian boils with anger after being rejected so rudely. The whole school quickly begins to gossip about Chen's refusal. Most students think he plans to take first place all for himself after revealing his C rank. Now, the whole school gets to enjoy the drama unfolding right in front of them. Chen's roommates fully enjoy seeing the humiliated looks on Jian and Ting's faces after such a public and brutal rejection. The president stays calm and tells Jian not to worry if Chen has his own plans. Seeing this, the watching principal sighs in disappointment. He had really hoped the boys would team up. He wanted them to work together to break a new school record. However, Ling points out that things are much more interesting this way. She explains that Ting grew up rich and spoiled, so he will definitely see this refusal as a declaration of war. She reminds the principal that the president is not an easy person to cross once his pride is hurt. Jean keeps complaining, saying Chen only has a big ego because a test error showed he was a C rank. Ting hints that the result might actually be real. He admits that even if it is unlikely, he cannot let anyone take his first place spot. Jean remembers that Chen is likely just a normal student with no real combat experience. On the other hand, the council members are elites who secretly trained inside a demon lair to get strong. He suggests going to teach Chen a lesson for being so rude. Ting cuts him off and asks if he really thinks their president is petty enough to do that. Jean realizes his mistake and apologizes. Ting then cancels their karaoke plans and tells Jian to handle the situation by himself. He coldly adds that whatever Jian chooses to do has nothing to do with him. Chen understands the hidden message right away. Soon after, a spy walks up to Jian. He reports that Chen already left the school to go home for a while. He mentions that Chen left without even stopping to eat, making things very convenient for them. Jin sees this as perfect luck. He gets excited to crush Chen outside the school where no one can step in to help. As Chen crosses the street, he remembers a disaster from his past life. A top guild had tried to clear a demon lair in the St. He country area. Inside that lair, they met a new monster called Wrath. The monster wiped out the entire top team without them even putting up a fight. The monster then escaped into the human world and caused massive damage everywhere. Even though his memory of it is blurry, Chen is determined to find that same demon lair in this life. To start his plan, Chen needs a lot of money. He heads straight to the Mithril Monster Exchange Center. He remembers that this exchange center will become the biggest trading hub in the whole country in the future. In this world, an Awakener's strength is based on the quality of their weapons and gear. The exchange center is the best place to buy and sell these items. However, Chen just sees this place as a quick way to earn some money before tackling his bigger goals. He walks in and shows a few monster fangs to the broker. The broker looks at them closely with clear suspicion. The broker asks how a mere student got these items. Chen calmly says they dropped from a monster he beat earlier. The broker is surprised and claims he has never seen fangs like these before. His assistant steps in and explains that the fangs come from an E-class monster called a Sang-Sin beast. She mentions that these fangs can be used to make an E-grade weapon or ground into powder for other uses. The rude broker cuts her off and drops the fang back on the table. He claims that an E-grade item is pretty much worthless anyway. He brags that their shop is for VIPs only. They only deal with high-status Awakeners and D-grade items or better. He uses this as an excuse for not knowing what the E-grade item was. In his mind, he complains about not getting any rich customers lately. He sees no point in helping a low-tier student since it will not help him get a promotion. He calls Chen a bother and dumps the work on his assistant, Lee, before walking away. Lee politely hands Chen an envelope of cash. She then asks if he needs help with anything else. Chen checks the envelope to find 18 grand. He decides this is enough to pay his rent for now, without any stress. He then takes out the glowing greatsword he got from the Purgatory Rakshasa. This immediately grabs Lee's full attention. Even though she has never seen anything like it, she guesses it must be at least a B grade or maybe even an A grade item. The broker walks back over and laughs at her guess. He says A grade items cost around 1 million. Having worked there for years, he claims he has never even seen an A grade item in person. Just then, the shop owner walks in. He calmly says that the weapon is neither A grade nor B grade. The broker praises his boss's smart judgment. He smugly agrees that a mere student could never own something so valuable. However, the owner explains that the weapon comes from the Purgatory lands. He reveals that it is actually an S-grade item. Both the broker and the assistant freeze in total shock after hearing this. The owner immediately shakes Chen's hand and warmly welcomes him as an honored VIP guest. He invites Chen into the VIP room and tells him to ask for whatever he needs. Chen feels very satisfied. The owner, Qingji, finally showed up just as he planned. Once they settle into the VIP room, the guild boss asks Chen how much he wants to sell the weapon for. Chen immediately answers with 1 million, which surprises the green-haired boss. The boss tells him it could easily sell for tens of millions, since it is extremely valuable. However, Chen explains that he just wants to use the greatsword as collateral for a $1 million loan for a month. This leaves the man even more surprised. He realizes Chen is very smart and wonders who exactly he is. Chen continues, saying he will pay back the main amount in 30 days and the interest the month after. Before answering, the guild boss tells the girl to step outside so they can discuss business privately. Once she leaves, the man mentions that he knows Chen goes to the National Awakener University, where the seniors are about to graduate. He adds that he knows the graduation test is in 30 days and the prize money is exactly 1 million. The boss then asks Chen directly if he is completely sure he will get first place in that test. The guild boss figures out that Chen desperately needs money and wouldn't be doing this unless it was his last option. In the end, he offers to lend Chen 1.5 million right away with absolutely no interest. Reaching his hand out, he smiles and says this will be the start of a beautiful friendship. Chen is left speechless by the generous offer. The man reassures him that he won't let a single word leak out from this room. He simply asks that in return, Chen comes to his guild whenever he wants to trade anything else. Chen thinks to himself that this man figured everything out so easily, yet didn't try to scam him. He now understands why the guild boss becomes such a big shot in the future. Chen shakes his hand, realizing that he needs strong allies if he ever wants to defeat the Demon Lord. A few moments later, the contract is signed, and the money is sent to his account instantly. The guild boss then asks if he needs to borrow a weapon for the test, since he just gave his away. Even though the guild doesn't have any S-rank gear, they still have plenty of high-quality A-rank equipment for him to choose from. Chen tells him not to worry. He then simply summons the other greatsword he got earlier, leaving the guild members completely blown away. With that, Chen takes his leave. Right after, the guild boss promotes the pink-haired girl to supervisor for bringing in such a high-level client. Before fully leaving, Chen realizes he forgot to buy something and turns back toward the counter. A few hours later, Chen is waiting at a bus stop. He remembers how, in his past life, he struggled a lot to reach the top, and people treated him like trash. He worked endless shifts just to make ends meet, and he and his sister had to live like they were almost homeless to survive each month. His sister, Yuan, managed to get into her dream university back then, but she gave it up, claiming the campus was too far from her brother. But in reality, she was just afraid of putting a heavier financial burden on him. Back in the present, he wonders why she hasn't shown up yet and starts looking around. Just then, a voice calls out, calling him stupid for searching near the entrance instead of the exit. It's Yuan. Pulling along her huge suitcase, she tells him they are broke again because the rent drained all their money. However, Chen just stands there in complete shock, since it has been 7 years since he last saw her. She tells him to help her with her bags. Getting no response, she waves her hand in front of his face, trying to snap him out of it. At that moment, Chen suddenly rushes forward and hugs her tightly, catching her by surprise. After a few awkward moments, she pokes his sides to break free from his grip, scolding him for nearly suffocating her. She tells him he has been acting pretty weird lately and wonders if his crush finally rejected him, but he just brushes it off. The two start walking together while she continues to talk about her exams. Even so, Chen is more than happy to listen to everything, promising himself that he will never let anything bad happen to her in this life. Elsewhere in a dark alleyway, a few thugs are waiting around. After confirming that Chen will pass through the area, their leader Jian tells his men to stay low until their target shows up so they can ambush him together. With a crazy smile on his face, he tells himself that he will definitely punish Chen for what he did. One of the thugs asks if they will get in trouble if the situation escalates. The Cloud Assassin replies that he initially just wanted to teach the guy a lesson, but his recent encounter really made him mad. Recalling how Chen humiliated him, he tells his goons to leave some of the fun for him, swearing to teach our hero a lesson he won't forget. Jean brags about being the best Cloud Assassin around, drooling as he imagines the look of despair on his target's face. As Chen and his sister walk together, Yun points out that he has been acting strange lately and wonders if the exams are stressing him out. She quickly plays it off, teasing that a weakling like him shouldn't overthink things. She reminds him of his own advice, to keep going no matter what and leave the rest to fate. Trying to lift his spirits, she starts singing a motivational song as they enter an alley. Chen is pleasantly surprised that she noticed his change in mood so easily, though he realizes she still doesn't know about his awakened powers and newfound wealth. When he confidently replies that he is fine, she wonders if it's just his male pride talking. Yun shakes her head, thinking to herself that her brother is finally becoming a man. Trailing behind them, one of the thugs tells Jian that their target is with a girl. This makes Jian extremely excited, knowing the alley has no cameras and they won't get caught. However, Chen instantly senses their evil intentions and realizes it's the same scumbags from the student council. Taking out some wireless earbuds, he places them in his sister's ears. He tells her to listen to a song he recently started enjoying. This catches her off guard since he rarely listens to music, but she goes along with it to understand him better. Chen then turns around, staring daggers at the scumbags as they slowly advance. With the music playing in Yun's ears, the thugs rush forward and the fight begins. Chen immediately switches to his lightning class. He thinks about how it has been 7 years since he lost his sister, and he just got her back. Filled with anger, he wonders where these guys got the nerve to attack them, dashing forward like a bolt of lightning. He kicks the first thug so hard that he goes flying, causing the others to break a sweat. Chen charges his fist and punches 3 of them in a row, finishing off the 4th with a brutal knee strike. One brave goon tries to attack, but Chen simply grabs his hand. Without any effort, he breaks it like a piece of dry spaghetti. The guy screams in pain, only to receive a heavy punch straight to his nose. Seeing his men get thrown around, Jian freezes in shock, wondering how Chen became so strong. Chen doesn't stop there, continuing to throw punches left and right as he makes his way toward the Cloud Assassin. When Chen finally reaches him, Jian tries to convince himself that he is the strongest assassin alive, declaring that he cannot lose. Our hero quickly brings him back to reality with a devastating punch that sends him flying. He follows up by rushing forward, unleashing a combo of punches that knocks several of Jian's teeth loose. The Cloud Assassin rolls violently across the ground and crashes into a wall. He looks up only to see Chen staring right at him like a demon. Chen looks down at the defeated Jian and reminds the piece of trash that he already warned him to stay away. Staring straight into his soul, he asks if the brainless scum can't even understand basic human speech. Beaten beyond recognition, the once arrogant assassin can no longer feel his legs, with half the bones in his body completely shattered. Realizing he messed with the absolute wrong guy, he barely manages to mumble out a pathetic apology. Chen promptly shuts him up, grabbing his collar and pressing a cold dagger right against his face. Staring into Chen's eyes, the so-called top assassin sees it clearly. There is absolutely zero hesitation to kill. This is not the aura of a normal high school student. Jane cannot help but wonder what kind of hellish experiences could turn a man into a monster like Chen. Dripping with cold malice, Chen tells the broken boy to remember his words carefully if he wants to avoid a repeat of this nightmare. He won't hesitate to tear them apart if they ever try anything stupid again. Delivering his final warning, he adds one last chilling condition for emphasis. If they so much as step within a mile of his sister, he will gladly hunt down and erase everyone close to them, one by one. With his message delivered, he drops the dagger and casually walks back to Yuni's side before the background song even finishes playing. Meanwhile, his sister is completely overwhelmed with emotion, moved to tears by the painfully sad and lonely lyrics of the track. She cries, heartbroken and confused over what her brother must have endured to change so drastically over the years. She even wonders if her support back then was simply not enough. Wiping her tears, she spins around, determined to give him a proper scolding. But she freezes mid-sentence the instant she spots the gift in his hand. The shiny, gold-plated pen she has always dreamed of owning is sitting right in front of her eyes. Yun flushes bright red with overwhelming excitement. She can hardly believe her brother actually bought her the newest holographic magic pen, an item that costs more than their entire monthly rent. Her adorable reaction immediately warms Chen's heart. Her expression makes it obvious she doesn't want to return it, even if doing so would be the responsible choice while they are so far behind on rent. Clenching his fist behind his back, Chen silently swears to protect his sister's smile in this life and ensure she makes it into her dream school. Back at home, Yuni happily spends hours tracing glowing holographic drawings in the air. Watching her, her big brother quietly enjoys a bowl of her homemade ramen, genuinely glad that she loves the gift. Even so, the reality of their situation kicks in, and she worries about him spending so much money on her when next month's rent isn't even covered. In response, Chen flashes a proud smile and reveals that their rent for the entire year has already been paid in full. He casually brags that his little business venture with a friend has been highly profitable lately, but Yoon is sharp and immediately shoots him a suspicious glare. She is clearly not buying this incredibly convenient business story. That being said, she chooses not to push the subject further. Honestly, she can't even remember the last time her big brother laughed so openly and freely. Gently patting him on the shoulder, she makes one simple request. Whatever secret hustle he's working on, he just needs to make sure he doesn't burn himself out. Meanwhile, at a quiet aquarium, Student Council President Ting shares some shocking news with his cousin. The city's best doctors have declared that their top assassin is critically injured beyond recovery. Over half the bones in his body are shattered beyond repair. The fact that he fought Chen was already unexpected, but the horrifying state of his body post-battle is absolutely staggering. His cousin reacts with chilling indifference. Her only disappointment is that the number of elite graduate students joining his team has now dropped. But the president is just as ruthless, brushing it off by stating he'll actually perform better without some burdensome NPC weighing him down. Just then, their uncle, who also serves as the academy's director of employment, speaks up. Director Gong Xuan calmly delivers his official report regarding our hero's recent moves. His detailed investigation into the chaos at the ranking ceremony has finally concluded, and the results are undeniable. Chen genuinely ranks higher than the student council president himself. This massive revelation catches the former top student completely off guard. The director then offers a stern word of advice, revealing that Ting's father personally requested a vice chairman of the alliance to evaluate his upcoming combat exam performance. Because of this, Ting must ensure he shines brighter than anyone else. But just in case he fails to secure the spotlight, the director proposes a backup plan. The green-haired girl, his uncle's favorite niece, will join his team to guarantee they secure first place overall. However, the arrogant council president flatly rejects the offer without a second thought. He haughtily claims that he didn't even use a fraction of his true strength during the initial assessment. Supremely confident in his overwhelming superiority, President Ting assures them he will dominate the entire academy on his own. Back at the academy dorms, our boy Chen washes off after finishing a grueling daily 100-mile run with a heavily weighted backpack. He is completely locked in on one single goal, winning the $1 million prize in the upcoming graduation exam. This prize is his only real shot at fulfilling his deal with the Mithril Guild's Qingji and establishing a lucrative, mutually beneficial trade relationship. With only a few weeks left until the big exam, he lies down in bed, not to rest, but to continue his relentless grind even in his sleep. Transporting his consciousness into his demonic lair, he finds Demon King Lun Yu's enormous void tower looming before him. Without a hint of hesitation, he marches up the long, imposing staircase leading to its entrance. Previously, his first assessment using the Gravehound King class reached a respectable mid-C rank. On the other hand, the sheer, overwhelming strength of his Abyssal Fiend class completely overloaded the Academy's rating system. Even the Demon Heart itself was utterly incapable of properly classifying its true potential. Because of this, the only way to accurately evaluate his remaining classes becomes painfully obvious. He must unlock the Void Tower and test their raw destructive power directly on the battlefield. Stepping inside, Chen is curious about what kind of brutal, nightmarish challenge the tower will throw his way. But the moment he sees what waits for him inside, his eyes widen in pure shock. He gets transported to a strange dimension, standing on top of a massive white planet floating in space. The moment he takes his first step, he drops to one knee, barely able to keep his body upright. In the Fallen Star Wastes, the gravity is 10 times stronger than on Earth, and Chen feels the crushing pressure deep in his bones. Behind him, the tower entrance vanishes. He knows this means he has to defeat the boss to reopen the exit, so he needs to adapt quickly before any monsters can ambush him. However, a phantom lion prowling nearby isn't going to give him that chance. Left with no other choice, Chen instantly switches to his lightning class. The lion lunges at him, but he narrowly dodges and stabs it right in the shoulder. The beast roars in anger, but the strike doesn't do much damage since it missed its vital spots. He quickly realizes that his attacks are just as slow and sloppy as his current ability to move. The phantom lion easily pins him to the ground and goes in to take a bite out of him. This shows just how well these monsters have adapted to the extreme gravity. He lets the lion bite his arm for a moment before quickly switching to his Abyssal Fiend class. The change instantly gives him a different kind of stat boost. Trading away some speed, he gains a massive amount of strength and stamina, which is exactly what he needs for close combat. His class change slams the aggressive beast down, immediately flipping the fight in his favor. Rakshasa's gravity manipulation proves to be extremely useful. On a planet with 10 times normal gravity, a 3-time multiplier hits with brutal force. The lion roars furiously, but Chen shows no mercy, crushing it right into the ground. Afterward, he sprawls out on the floor to catch his breath. Gluttony surprises him with a well-deserved level-up notification. He then learns that every class has a star rating. The number of stars shows how much his stats boost when he switches to that class. Right now, Purgatory Rakshasa has the most stars out of all his options. But even with that advantage, he still had to fight for his life against a B-rank Phantom Lion. It is clear he still has a long way to go before reaching his full SSS rank potential. To make matters worse, he's annoyed to see that Gluttony won't even give him the option to absorb the creature. This monster clearly wasn't the floor boss either, since the exit didn't appear after he killed it. Suddenly, a massive door opens behind him. Dozens of glowing eyes peer out from the dark. Reality hits him hard. All the effort it took to beat just one Phantom Lion is nothing compared to what is coming next. Countless B-rank monsters pour out of the door, clawing and attacking him from every direction. Only now does he finally understand what Rakshasa warned him about. The demon told him that the tower was filled with ruthless beasts and that his path would be full of endless pain and suffering. But he was also told to endure it all so he could adapt and grow stronger. Chen suddenly jolts awake from his sleep, feeling like he just survived the worst nightmare of his life. Everyone else in the room is still fast asleep, completely unaware that he just felt the agony of being torn apart by monsters. He finally realizes that the Purgatory's Void Tower isn't a shortcut to instantly leveling up. He is only at the very start of a long and painful journey. A few weeks pass, and it's finally time for the Academy's graduation exam. Many VIPs are there to watch the promising new batch of students. New rules are announced for forming teams, requiring at least one high E-rank student in every party. When it is time to form teams, it's announced that all students can now see each other's ranks. This helps everyone quickly decide who to recruit for their group. The students are listed in order of their rank, from highest to lowest. But Ma Long quickly notices something weird. Chen is also confused when he sees his name sitting all the way at the very bottom of the list. All eyes turn to him, as everyone wonders how a high-grade awakener could possibly be in the lowest spot. The jealous students immediately start talking trash, convinced that his original high rank was just a mistake in the test. Still, even they can't deny that his strength is real, and having him on their team would easily boost their scores. Council President Ting stays quiet while people whisper about the fool who must be regretting his choice to reject the president's offer. It turns out the man behind this trick is his own uncle, Gong Xuan. He figured no one would invite Chen to their party after seeing him ranked at the bottom. His plan was simple. If Chen can't even qualify, he won't get a chance to beat the president's team. A few hours earlier, the entire classroom practically begs President Ting to let them join his team. They try their best to flatter him, but Chung shuts them down, saying they can only add one more person. Now, all the other students have formed their own teams, leaving only the weakest dorm behind. Long says they tried asking everyone, but no one wants to join them. Since they only have 4 people right now, they cannot take part in the graduation test. He complains that it is very suspicious that Chen's score was dropped to the lowest rank, making him unfit to even take part. Since the rules require at least one high-level E rank, it feels like their group was targeted on purpose. The graduation test is the only way students can show their talent and get scouted by top guilds. In the final test, the number of participants decides how many monsters the group will face, so having more people is not an advantage. That is why no one wants anything to do with the weak students, as they would only be an extra burden. To make things worse, the 3 lowest-ranked students are all from the same dorm, leaving them completely isolated. A student calls out to Zuo and tells him they are only missing one person. The guy tries to manipulate him, saying he surely does not want to fail the graduation test by teaming up with his weak dorm mates. Chen realizes that if this keeps going, there is a high chance they will all be left out and will not even get to compete. However, the dorm king rejects the offer and says he will never abandon his roommates. The other group leaves in anger, but he still warns them not to underestimate others. Checking the student list, Long announces that almost everyone has already formed their teams. They only need one more person, but no one is willing to join them. Chen stares at the director and realizes the man shares the same last name as the student council president. He notices these dirty tricks. Chen wonders if Gong Xuan really thinks he is that big of a threat. Not losing hope, he declares that he will definitely take part in the tournament and activates his lightning power. Since the others are showing their hate so openly, he tells himself he does not need to hold back either. Releasing his energy, he steps forward while the officials in charge are surprised by his sudden display of power. Even his dorm mates start to wonder what is going on. Chen recalls that all Awakener schools have a special rule. To create a competitive space, students can challenge anyone at any time. Even though it might look like showing off, this is a way to display strength and get recognized. In situations like this, many people would refuse to fight in the first place. However, he knows the student council president will not back down. As long as he defeats the blonde guy, everyone will want to team up with him. A girl appears at the door and calls out to Chen, asking if he still needs someone on his team. She adds that she also wants to take part in this year's graduation test. The vice president points out that she reached D rank back in middle school, so she will not disappoint him. His dorm mates go crazy, wondering how he managed to get such a beautiful girl on his side. Chung and Ting both look confused about what is happening, while the director nearly chokes on his water. The students start gossiping and wonder why an exchange student wants to join the worst-ranked team in the test. No one really knows who she is, but there is a rumor that she comes from the Saint Kingdom. The director gets very angry and tells her that exchange students cannot take part in the school's graduation test. He goes on to say that Ling never took any rank tests here, nor did she prove her rank, which goes against all the rules. The principal suddenly appears and says that the director is right. Gongshuan is shocked when he sees the old man. The principal then asks why Ling wants to join the test, since she will only stay at the school for a short time. Chen is caught off guard and wonders how the principal suddenly teleported, since he is a warrior class. The old man explains that it would not be fair to others if she joins the test, and she simply plays along. Chen starts sweating when he realizes that he cannot even tell what rank these two are. The director finally gathers the courage to speak up and supports the principal, saying a school cannot function without rules. The principal then changes his tone and explains that the goal of the school is to provide a learning space for awakeners so they can achieve great things in life. Even though the graduation test is a tradition, it is also one of the most important moments in a student's life. He asks how the school will make up for the loss if a student cannot take part due to sudden rule changes. The director starts sweating heavily and wonders if he has finally been exposed. He begins to question if the principal is doing all of this just for Chen. Realizing it is not worth the trouble, the director decides to back down. He tells himself that since the strongest students have already formed a team, they should easily win the test anyway. The director bows to the principal and apologizes, admitting they overlooked how this system could stop some students from getting a chance to grow. He then announces that to ensure fairness, even lower-ranked teams and groups with less than 5 members can now participate. The 4 dorm mates finally form their team and celebrate that they can take part in the graduation test. Sitting in the back, the principal tells Ling that she seems a little too interested in Chen. On one side of the test, the student council president leads the team of the strongest players. On the other side, Chen leads the 3 weakest players. This makes the old man very curious about which cave they will choose and how many points they will score in the end. The official then announces that all captains can now choose which devil cave to enter. His tablet dings, catching him off guard because one captain has already made a choice. Everyone is shocked when they see which cave Chen selected. His dorm mates also panic and tell him to quickly change his mind, asking if he understands what he just did. However, Chen remains silent as he continues to stare at the screen. During the graduation test, teams of students enter a devil's cave and earn points by defeating monsters. Defeating monster lords and clearing the dungeon quickly gives separate points. The dungeon's difficulty level then determines how much the total score is multiplied. An F-rank dungeon gives up to 75 points, while an E-rank dungeon offers a maximum of 100 points. The team with the highest score gets scouted by the Imperial Guild, and the top player receives a reward of 1 million yuan. Inside the selection room, the students discuss that the highest score in history was 90 points, achieved by the current leader of the Imperial Guild. Even clearing an E-rank dungeon requires a team to have at least 3 solid D-rank fighters. This year, Ting's team might actually surpass that record. The display suddenly dings, informing everyone that someone has already selected a Devil's Cave. A student is shocked to see that Chen has chosen a D-rank dungeon. No one has ever cleared a D-rank dungeon before, and everyone wonders if he made a mistake. Long asks Chen if he hit his head, while the dorm king completely loses his mind at the screen. The nerd tries to talk some sense into Chen, but he reveals that he thought long and hard about this choice. The system dings again when the student council president also selects the D-rank cave. Ting's teammates immediately accept their leader's choice, officially qualifying them for the test. The classroom goes wild at the announcement, though Ting's group tries to act nonchalant. A blonde goth girl roasts Chen for trying to act tough, assuming he just wants attention. A bald student adds that Chen's weak teammates will never agree to this, and the team will fall apart. Long studies Chen's face and realizes he is completely serious. He wonders when his friend became so bold and how much he has changed. Making up his mind, the nerd presses the confirm button, deciding to trust his friend. Yo also hits the green button, feeling like he has nothing to lose. The dorm king gets annoyed that the others made their choice before him, so he presses the button too. With that, the system officially qualifies their team for the test. Looking at his dorm mates, Chen apologizes and explains he chose this dungeon to become the top scorer. He knows he is dragging them into his own dream, but he reassures them they will reach the top together. Hearing his words, the president stands up and declares that the top spot belongs to him alone. Chen turns around and faces him directly. Ting releases an intimidating aura, stating that there can only be one strongest student in the school. Standing in the back, Ling is surprised as this is the first time she has seen such strong emotions from Ting. The rivalry between the two is now out in the open. The principal feels proud that the students are so fearless, but Ling is uneasy about Chen choosing a D-rank cave, which even a C-rank fighter cannot clear alone. Even though a student can earn 150 points from a D-rank cave, the difficulty is just too high. On top of that, his teammates are not well suited for it either. The principal adds that with only a month left, it will be impossible for them to improve enough in time. Even so, he still hopes for the best. 2 weeks later at the training grounds, everyone lies exhausted on the floor. Long asks why they are doing physical training while the other students are using simulation training. Chen made them go through all kinds of exhausting exercises, leaving them extremely frustrated. Chen explains that simulation training is actually no help at all. When someone enters a devil's cave for the first time, their mind goes blank and their instincts are the only thing that saves them. The physical training is meant to improve their strength so they can move faster and react better. The best training would be to enter a real dungeon and gain experience, but ordinary students can only dream of that. Only the elites get those opportunities. Furthermore, the elites do everything they can to make sure normal people never catch up, allowing them to stay on top. They have access to resources that regular people spend their entire lives trying to get. The Dorm King asks what ordinary people are supposed to do in that situation. Chen reveals his plan, saying that if they manage to join the Imperial Guild, they can change the entire system. The graduation test is their only real chance to surpass the elites. Driven by this dream, Chen swears to do everything he can to keep his promise and guarantees that they will win. With just half a month left before the graduation exam, our boy trains inside the Void Tower every single night. Defeating the Phantom Lions is no easy task, but he refuses to quit no matter how hard they beat him up. 5 days before the exam, his roommates are training with everything they have. Our boy, however, is on a completely different level. His intense routine makes even the toughest training look like a basic warm-up. With just 2 days left, his rival is clearly not slacking off either. But Chen is improving even faster. Now he can confidently fight a whole pack of lions under heavy gravity. With blood running down his face, he has never looked more ready to win. On the day of the exam, a small drone floats near the students to guide them. The boys walk in wearing matching outfits, looking really sharp. Once all the students put on their wristbands, the exam officially begins. Outside the exam area, the academy principal warmly greets Gong Lin. This sharp-looking man is President Ting's father, the co-founder of the Imperial Guild. The students cannot stop staring at the Imperial Guild co-founder, looking at him like he is a rare animal at the zoo. Their curiosity grows even more when they see the principal and the guild co-founder welcome a fancy white limo. A red-haired man named Carl Cavendish calmly steps out of the car. The students freak out because everyone recognizes him as the vice chairman of the World Guild Alliance. Someone as important as him would normally never visit a place like this. Inside a VIP room, the director tells the special guests that 23 teams are challenging F-rank demon lairs. A few groups chose E-rank lairs, and only 2 brave teams picked D-rank lairs. The Alliance Secretary Sigrid looks very surprised that the students would make such a risky choice. Usually, even a D-rank team needs to prepare carefully before entering a D-rank lair. She asks if the Academy really thought about the students' safety. Hearing her concern, the director calmly explains that the students fully understand what they signed up for. He made it very clear that Awakeners with no real combat experience usually struggle against even F-rank monsters. But the real danger is the lair's boss, which is much stronger than the normal monsters. Many teams end up failing because they cannot defeat the boss. However, things are completely different inside E-rank lairs. Even the basic monsters there are as strong as an F-rank boss. This hard truth is something students usually learn the hard way. The Alliance Secretary then asks if there is any protection for the students if things get too dangerous. The director promises her that the Academy cares deeply about its top students. To keep everyone safe, a warrior from the Imperial Guild stands outside every lair, ready to jump in if anything goes wrong. On top of that, the wristbands each student wears can instantly teleport them to safety if they choose to give up or if their life is in real danger. Hearing this, the lady still doubts that the Academy has students skilled enough to beat a D-rank lair. She quietly wonders how long those teams can actually survive inside. The director, however, is sure that the young E-rank students will probably come running out in tears. Inside the D-rank dungeon filled with giant frozen trees, Chen's teammates are clearly terrified. Anyone would be scared after seeing those nightmare creatures, which look like a mix between weird bats and monkeys. Chen quickly warns his team that these monsters dive at their targets in the blink of an eye, so they need to stay on high alert. Suddenly, a group of the ghost monkey bats flies straight down at them. Surprisingly, all the boys manage to clumsily dodge the monster's super-fast attacks. While they are still excited about dodging a D-rank creature's attack, something even crazier catches their attention. Our boy stands there calmly with a lightning sword in his hand, surrounded by dead monsters lying at his feet. He tells his team to focus on saving themselves first since they aren't strong enough yet, leaving the rest to him. Suddenly, another ghost monkey bat lunges at them with incredible speed, but they barely manage to dodge it in time. Songzu realizes that Chen had actually been pushing them to train their reflexes and speed so they could survive against monsters like this. Ju grits his teeth. He had been calling himself the Dorm King all this time, but now he has no choice but to rely on his random roommate. Meanwhile, Chen completely wipes out the remaining ghost monkeys. They dive toward him in waves, but he slices them down before they even know what hit them. The Dorm King mutters to himself that he always heard about Chen's strength from Ma Long, but this is the first time he's seeing it for himself. To him, Chen doesn't look like a normal student at all, but more like a battle-hardened soldier. As the fight continues, the Dorm King feels a bit of jealousy creeping in over Chen's rising reputation. Out of nowhere, another monster appears behind the group, and Zhu barely manages to block its strike. He grabs the creature's leg with his flaming hands and yells at his teammates to stop acting like dead weight and get it together. After all, Chen isn't the only one whose graduation is on the line. The others stare at him, surprised by his sudden determination. Inspired by the Dorm King's stubborn will, Shangzu casts his Vine Lock spell, successfully tying up the monster. But to his shock, the creature breaks free almost instantly, kicking Zhu in the process. Long casts his Frostbite Breeze spell, which only slows the monster down a little, so they decide to combine their attacks. Working together, they manage to hold the creature down briefly and shout for the Dorm King to take the shot. He charges up an explosive flame bullet and lands a direct hit. But the attack barely does any damage, only leaving behind a few burnt hairs. He fires several more flame bullets at the monster, but nothing seems to put it down. Shangzhou and Long are already pushed to their limits. The Dorm King decides he can't afford to hold back anymore. He gathers all his strength and unleashes a massive flame attack straight at the monster, triggering a huge explosion. When the smoke clears, only a charred skeleton remains. The drone announces that they have successfully killed a D-class ghost monkey bat. The three of them collapse onto the ground, completely drained. They are thrilled that they actually managed to defeat a D-class monster on their own. Chen walks over, slightly surprised, and they immediately ask if he saw them take it down. The monster leaves behind a single finger bone as loot, and Zuo tries to act tough, casually claiming that killing it was a piece of cake. Chen congratulates them anyway. Soon after, the drone announces that all the monsters inside the Devil's Cave have been cleared. Watching the live feed, Director Gong nearly loses his mind. He can't believe these supposedly weak students with zero real combat experience defeated a D-level threat. The rest of the staff just stay completely silent. At the same time, Vice Chairman Cavendish's assistant calmly praises Chen for his outstanding performance. He thinks to himself that Chen's aura reminds him a lot of an old friend. The Vice Chairman mentions Chen's name and decides to remember him, which instantly worries President Ting's father and the director. To keep the focus away from Chen, the director quickly points everyone's attention toward the student council team inside the other D-rank cave. He points out that the team has already reached the middle section. The chairman's aide praises their teamwork, comparing their skills to a professional guild raid team. Chairman Carl smiles at this and says that the graduates this year are truly impressive compared to past classes. Director Gong whispers to himself that the real battle is just starting, and the best part has yet to be seen. Inside the D-rank Toxic Vine Cavern, the president's party is attacked by poisonous mushroom monsters popping up from all directions. A girl plays her guitar to cast a decay spell, while a star mage groups the mushrooms together using his attraction ability to set up a combo attack. He calls out to the captain, and the president charges in with his sword, ready to finish the monsters off in style. With a single fast strike, the president unleashes his blazing sky sword skill, blowing the mushroom monsters apart perfectly. His teammates notice that the monsters in this school test are exactly the same as the ones they fought during training. Because they know what to expect, the team handles the fight easily without feeling any pressure. They already guessed that the school officials set up the test ahead of time for them. Having the right support makes life much easier for them. Thinking this, they start celebrating early. They are totally confident that they will win first place this year without a real challenge. Down on the final level of the Cloud Forest, the boys are shocked they actually survived long enough to reach the boss monster. In the middle of a frozen wasteland, they spot a giant ghost ape calmly eating its meal. The Dorm King starts sweating right away, just thinking about how strong the monster is. One hit from that beast would probably kill him instantly. Right then, the creature slowly locks its eyes on the weakest person in the group. Ma Long screams in fear, and that single loud noise is enough to make the beast attack. The giant ape jumps right at them in a scary leap. The boys run away as fast as they can to save their lives. Chen just charges forward without any hesitation. He jumps straight into the beast's giant face with a hard kick, then lands a series of fast punches that bounce its heavy body in the air. He ends the fight by completely ripping the monster apart into pieces. Seeing this brutal fight leaves his friends completely shocked. Even after winning, Chen feels annoyed because these D-rank monsters are not giving him enough experience points. The item drops are disappointing too. He then hears his teammates shout in excitement that they found giant mana stones. It turns out the giant ape was hiding the shiny stones inside a hollow tree trunk. His friends are amazed by the surprise treasure and quickly reach out to grab the crystals. Chen shouts a warning for them to stop, but he is a second too late, and a bright flash of light explodes from the trunk. In just a few seconds, the whole area is covered in solid ice. Shangzu, the Dorm King, and the camera drones are completely frozen by the cold blast. Up in the VIP room, the live video feed suddenly cuts out. The shady director smiles, looking like he was waiting for this to happen. He knew high-rank monsters would set traps, and he figured it was only a matter of time before Chen and his rookie team walked right into one. Vice Chairman Cavendish frowns, clearly worried about the students. The director pretends to feel bad about Chen failing and says they have no choice but to pull the team out right away. The principal disagrees. He points out that the students are not in any real danger yet, because their wristbands will automatically turn on if their health drops too low and none of them have asked to give up. He believes only the students should have the right to decide when to quit. Down in the dungeon, Ma Long shakes in the freezing cold. Out of everyone in the group, he is the only one who did not get frozen. This is because his character class has a naturally high defense against ice magic. Long hears a scary laugh and spots a skeleton ice monster staring right at him without any mercy. He recognizes it as the Lord of the Lair, remembering it from the Monster Compendium. He recalls that it is a cloud mage capable of easily controlling both offensive and defensive abilities by manipulating ice and snow. He also remembers that this creature, known as the Bone King of Remains, enjoys killing its prey through prolonged torture. Realizing the ice bomb was just a trap, he turns and runs without hesitation. Long knows perfectly well that he can't handle a C-class Lord monster on his own. He rushes toward Chen to free him, but an ice attack strikes his leg before he can reach his friend. The Bone King laughs at his misery, while Long's bracelet sends out a warning that his leg has been completely pierced. The device offers him the option to abandon the exam, but Long refuses to give up. He still tries to thaw Chen out before they lose their only advantage. Suddenly, another ice shard shoots through his arm, stopping him from freeing Chen despite his desperate efforts. The Bone King enjoys watching Long endure unbearable pain, and his bracelet issues another warning about severe damage. It detects that his arm has also been pierced and notes his dangerously high heart rate, offering him the option to quit the exam once again. Instead of giving up, Long thinks back on his past. Throughout his life, he always ran away from his problems the moment things got hard, a habit that left him behind every single time. He remembers how people ignored, bullied, and laughed at him. He and his friends have worked way too hard to reach this point to just quit now. Seeing this as his final chance to change his fate, he gathers the last of his strength, stands up, and finally manages to release Chen. He stands tall just as the Bone King unleashes a relentless barrage of icicles straight toward him. Right as the attack is about to land, Long lets out a loud roar, and Chen finally opens his eyes. The ice block shatters into pieces, and Chen rushes forward, carrying Long away from danger in one swift move. This sudden escape catches the Bone King off guard. Long quickly realizes that Chen managed to break free from the icy prison entirely on his own. Chen thanks Long for trying to help him earlier and immediately asks about his injuries with clear concern. Long replies that the bleeding has stopped for now, so he will survive. He informs Chen that the monster is a cloud type, C-rank lord known as the Bone King, warning him that it is extremely dangerous in combat. He adds that they must avoid getting frozen again at all costs if they want to survive. They turn back and see the Bone King charging up a massive cluster of ice shards. Long is stunned, realizing the monster is about to drop a giant ice nuke on them. In the next instant, the bomb crashes down, covering everything in blinding white. The monster begins to laugh, but suddenly stops when it notices that both boys are still alive after the devastating attack. Chen switches his class to the Doomflame King and activates his Cloud Warrior Frost Body, granting him complete immunity to cold damage. This transformation also boosts all his resistance stats in cold environments, turning the battlefield to his advantage. The Bone King lets out a horrified shriek. Even Long is confused as he watches his friend, who was supposed to be a Volt Assassin, turn into a Cloud-type warrior instead. He wonders if Chen might be one of those rare prodigies who can awaken two different classes at once. Chen simply apologizes for misjudging the situation earlier, admitting that he dragged his friends into a dangerous fight because of his mistake. He then switches classes again, this time into an Abyssal Fiend. Pulling out his Purgatory Warrior sword, he faces the Bone King, fully intending to end the fight right there. His best friend's jaw drops wide open at the sight. Normally, Awakeners are born with just one class they can specialize in, but there is an incredibly rare chance for someone to possess two classes at the same time. These dual-class users are so rare you could count them on one hand. This makes them treasures that every major guild desperately wants to recruit. However, that alone isn't what shocks his friend. Looking closely, he realizes that Chen isn't using just one or two, but three completely different classes. On top of that, each of these classes is in a league of its own. In his Abyssal Fiend form, Chen's stats shoot up at an insane rate. His overwhelming physical strength launches him off the ground like a rocket. He charges forward with explosive momentum toward the boss. The monster's smug grin instantly vanishes when it feels Chen's deadly aura. In a single clean motion, he slices through the bony monster like a knife through butter. This instantly levels him up to 17 and earns him a rare loot drop. Staring at the shattered skeleton on the ground, his friend is still in absolute shock that Chen just one-shot a C-rank boss. Chen casually reminds him that the rest of their team is still frozen solid in ice. Ma Long suddenly panics, realizing he completely forgot about his other teammates during the entire boss fight. He sprints off to thaw them out before they freeze to death. Once he leaves, Chen notices he has the option to devour the defeated Frostlich King. With no one around to watch, he quickly absorbs the fallen boss and unlocks the Cloud Mage class. Because the boss's ice attack blinded all the cameras and drones in the area, no one outside will find out about his hidden ability either. Then out of nowhere, he gets another surprise notification. His Lightning Assassin class has leveled up as well, allowing him to add a star to boost one of his stats. Meanwhile, over at the D-Rank Zone, Gloomvine Grotto, the Council President's team is getting absolutely overwhelmed. No matter how fiercely they attack, the D-Rank boss proves far too tough for these amateur awakeners. The mage trying to hold the monster down with chains is already on the verge of collapsing. On top of that, the Lightning Archer's arrows feel more like a light massage than actual damage to the boss. The beast easily tosses them around like cheap action figures. The humiliation makes them question if all their combat training and simulations were completely pointless. They have never faced anything even close to this level of power. The mage quickly realizes that the president is their only real hope of winning. Standing far in the back line, the president strikes a dramatic pose. He charges up his ultimate skill while receiving power buffs from the support mages. Once he finally gathers enough energy, he launches himself at the boss with his flaming sword. The blade pierces straight through the monster's core. It then erupts into a storm of flames, melting the creature from the inside out. His teammates erupt in cheers, celebrating the rise of a legend whose name is sure to go down in the history books. The drone nearby announces that their team has cleared a grade D zone in just over 30 minutes. Completely fired up, his party is fully convinced they secured first place. They believe no other team could possibly beat that time. They eagerly exit the lair, expecting to see their names proudly shining at the top of the rankings. They soon walk through hallways filled with students who gave up and teleported out early. Most of them look completely traumatized, still haunted by the demons they faced for the first time. The president's lackey spots Chen and his squad sitting off to the side. One glance at the exhausted group makes it clear. They must have failed the moment they went inside. The lackey smugly walks over, mocking Chen for failing halfway through after acting so bold earlier. The loyal follower keeps talking, but his boss silences him because the Alliance vice chairman is approaching. The elegant man claps slowly and congratulates the students on their great performance. As he gets closer, the president keeps a calm face, while his followers nearly shake with excitement at standing in front of one of the world's most powerful men. President Ting confidently reaches out for a handshake. However, Mr. Cavendish completely ignores it, walking straight past him without even looking. Embarrassed in public, the president feels his pride shatter. To make matters worse, the vice chairman loudly calls his rival a true legend. He grips Chen's shoulder and announces to everyone that Chen cleared a D-rank dungeon in just 20 minutes. Not even professional teams from his own guild have ever broken a record like that. Both the council president and his lackeys are left completely speechless. They cannot figure out how 4 nobodies beat their 10-man squad's time and actually cleared a D-rank lair. Chen does not even blink. Getting praise from the most powerful man in the country means nothing to him. Still, he wonders why such an important figure personally came to this academy. Carl Cavendish calmly states that he will remember Chen's name very well. Then he turns to Gong Lin, the man who invited him here. The vice chairman casually mentions that his son is talented too, offering a weak compliment at best. That leaves a bitter taste in the mouths of both the father and son. With that said, the vice chairman announces that it is time for him to leave. The academy director quickly steps in to smooth things over. He announces the final results, saying that both top teams have tied in score. Because of this, they will all get an official invitation to join the Imperial Guild. That news sounds like music to Chen's roommates because they are basically set for life thanks to him carrying the team. President Ting's lackeys celebrate too, but Ting himself is far from happy with this result. The director then adds that the captains will get management roles in the guild for their leadership and the $1 million cash prize will be split evenly between them. Hearing that, both team leaders are visibly surprised. Chen quietly worries that $500,000 will not be enough to pay off his debt. He needs to find another way to earn the rest of the money and keep his promise to the Mithril Exchange Guild. But that worry might not matter because President Ting openly refuses to accept a tie. He boldly declares that a one-on-one duel will decide the true winner, as there can only be one champion. This sudden challenge is so shocking that it catches the attention of the director and even the vice chairman. Alarmed by his nephew's reckless move, the director urgently tries to talk him into accepting the tie. The older man explains that a tie is the best possible result, especially after his earlier embarrassment. The director assumes Chen will reject the pointless duel, but Chen immediately accepts the challenge on one condition: the winner takes the entire $1 million prize. This unexpected twist is interesting enough to make the vice chairman pause and cancel his departure. With that settled, Chen steps forward to face him directly, ready to settle the score once and for all. Sometime later, Qingzhi tells Si Chen he expected him to take first place, but getting a perfect score was beyond his expectations. Seeing Si Chen all over the news, Qingzhi feels his financial support was a wise choice. He offers to cancel Si Chen's 1.5 million debt, calling it an angel investment in his future. Unwilling to accept handouts, Si Chen firmly states that a debt is a debt and must be repaid in full. Si Chen announces he came to discuss two things, which immediately catches Qingzhi's interest. First, Si Chen requests a one-week extension on his repayment deadline. Because the graduation test ended in a tie, his prize money fell short by 500,000. He reveals his plan to get the rest of the funds, a one-on-one tiebreaker against the other champion, Gong Ting. The duel will happen next week inside a wild devil's cave outside the school. Qingzhi is shocked by this reckless idea, questioning why two students would enter a wild dungeon. He warns Si Chen that it is too dangerous without professional training. Unfazed, Si Chen tells him not to worry and promises to win the remaining $500,000. To make up for the extension, Si Chen promises to hand over all the monster materials he gathers from the cave as interest. Seeing Si Chen's lack of fear and clear focus on his debt, Qingzhi sweats in disbelief. He admits to himself that the young man is truly special. Si Chen casually adds that there is a second, more important reason for his visit. With a serious face, Si Chen bluntly states his final piece of news. Whatever he reveals leaves Qingzhi completely shocked, his mouth dropping open in disbelief. Speechless, Qingzhi stands up and stares at Si Chen in stunned silence. Later that afternoon at Qingshui Middle School, Si Chen's younger sister, Si Yun, celebrates the end of her final exams while her classmates complain about the difficult test. Checking her phone, she happily notes the start of her summer vacation. She suddenly remembers that today is also a big day for her brother. His graduation assessment. She looks at her phone's lock screen, which shows a cheerful selfie of her and Si Chen. 4 years ago, an excited Si Chen burst into the room with his admission letter from the National Awakener University, thrilled that he had elemental potential. A younger Si Yun excitedly asked if he was going to become an awakener like their parents. Full of hope, Si Chen promised to join a top guild, make money, and give her a better life. He also believed that gaining power would let him find the truth behind their parents' disappearance. Si Yun cheered him on, confident her brother would become a strong awakener. In a more recent memory, a sad Si Chen sat at his desk. He worried that he was already a senior and still hadn't awakened his powers, while Si Yun watched him. Noticing her worry, he quickly tried to hide his sadness. Forcing a smile, he told her everything was fine and he just needed to work harder. Si Yun reflects on her brother's journey. Despite working harder than anyone, he was the only student who failed to awaken. She realizes how lonely he must have felt watching his peers succeed, all while hiding his pain to protect her. Her classmate, Zhu Tong, runs up and greets her. Zhu Tong asks if Si Yun has heard the latest news. She reveals that the National Awakener University produced 2 genius graduates this year. Zhu Tong explains that both graduates led their teams to perfect scores and were praised by the vice chairman of the Guild Alliance, making their county famous. Zhu Tong remembers that Si Yun's brother goes to that university and asks about him. Si Yun hesitates, feeling sad about the question. Before she can answer, a pink-haired student interrupts them with a flirty greeting. The boy, school idol Jin Duoxin, smugly tells Si Yun he booked a private room and asks if she is free to join him tonight. Zhu Tong is shocked, asking since when Si Yun knew the school idol. Si Yun just looks very annoyed. Without saying a word to him, Si Yun turns and runs down the hallway as fast as she can. A confused Zhu Tong wonders why her friend is running away, while Jin Duoxin watches her leave. Sprinting home, Si Yun imagines her brother crying in failure while his peers celebrate. Desperate to comfort him, she decides to prepare a big feast to cheer him up. Later that night at their apartment, Si Yun prepares a huge, delicious spread of food with a hot pot and many side dishes. Si Chen is amazed by the feast, asking his sister how she made so much food so quickly. As Si Chen happily eats, Si Yun watches him quietly, full of concern. On the TV, the news broadcasts a report on the graduation test at the National Awakener University. Si Chen continues to enjoy his meal while the news details the visit of Vice Chairman Carl. Seeing him act so cheerful, Si Yun assumes he is just faking it to hide his failure. The news reports a rare dual champion event where 2 students got perfect scores. The broadcast reveals that Vice Chairman Carl praised one of the team leaders who earned the perfect score, announcing the name Si Chen. Hearing the name, Si Yun looks at the TV in shock. She cannot believe the news that her brother, whom she thought failed, is actually the genius with a perfect score. In a dark room, a bloody whip lies on the floor, and a voice coldly states that the stage has been set. The speaker is Gong Lin, standing over his beaten son, Gong Ting. Holding the whip, Gong Lin yells at him, saying he had invited a special audience for his son's victory. He scolds his son for ruining the performance he had planned. Covered in bloody marks, Gong Ting breathes heavily as his father angrily reminds him that he embarrassingly tied with a nobody. He declares that Gong Ting will no longer make his own decisions. He reveals that he has already taken control and rigged the upcoming tiebreaker. Gong Ting hangs his head in defeat as his father coldly states he will handle the situation himself. He vows to get the victory by any means necessary, obsessed with ensuring first place belongs only to the Gong family. Meanwhile, hearing the news, Si-yun turns to her brother and asks if the Si-chen mentioned on TV is really him. Si-chen calmly eats his dinner and confirms that it is indeed him. Shocked by the confirmation, Si-yun drops her spoon, which shatters on the floor, as a flash of lightning outside mirrors her surprise. She stares at him in disbelief, realizing her own brother achieved such a great feat during the graduation assessment. She is amazed that he not only led his team to a perfect score, but was also personally praised by the vice chairman of the Guild Alliance. A stunned silence settles over the dinner table. Overcome with emotion, Si-yun lowers her head and wipes away tears, thinking of him as her silly brother. With tears of joy and pride, she smiles at Si-chen, realizing he finally made it to the top. On the night of the graduation combat assessment on June 17, 2157, Vice Chairman Carl Cavendish relaxes in a private dining room eating some premium beef. While enjoying his meal, he asks his companion for a progress report on her current assignment. Sitting across the table from him is Ling Yu. She hands over a black folder with top-secret files on a subject called the Devourer. She informs Carl that the target left no traces over the past year and warns that their surveillance might be discovered. Unbothered by the warning, Carl praises her work and tells her to eat first. Ling Yu hesitates, mentioning she has one more piece of information to share. She reveals she noticed a highly suspicious individual who recently contacted Carl, which immediately grabs his attention. She explains that the rapid rate of this person's power increase is completely abnormal. Inside the Devil Tower, a shirtless Si-chen crackles with golden electricity. He reflects that he has spent over half a month on the first floor, taking out nearly every monster. He has fully adapted to the floor's 10 times gravity. His system interface shows his Lightning Assassin class at level 17, with heavily boosted stats. After the graduation battle, his Lightning Assassin class reached 100% proficiency and rewarded him with an attribute point. This confirms that actively using a class increases its proficiency. Surrounded by the glowing avatars of his 4 classes, Si-chen realizes none of them have reached their maximum limit yet. He puts his new point into speed, the most important stat for an assassin. The multiplier boosts his speed to 740, equal to an A-rank assassin. Even with this massive speed increase, he finds himself in a tense standoff against a pack of glowing purple phantom lionesses. His main problem is the floor's lord, a massive phantom lion king, which he has been unable to hit. As 2 lionesses lunge at him, Si-chen activates his Divine Flash skill, transforming into golden lightning to meet them. He notices the Lion King's strange abilities. Whenever he finds an opening to strike, the creature instantly vanishes before the attack lands. He analyzes the pack's combat patterns. They adjust their positions rapidly, but 2 lionesses always fight in close combat while 2 stay on standby. The Lion King also constantly maintains a safe distance from him. Si-chen narrows his eyes in frustration, realizing the Lord refuses to fight directly. Staring down the massive beast, Si-chen wonders what kind of combat class this evasive Lion King possesses. As a phantom lioness charges, Si-chen counters and thrusts a powerful bolt of lightning directly into its mouth. Just as he is about to land a fatal blow, the creature vanishes in a flash of pink light, leaving him frustrated. He figures out this teleportation ability isn't limited to the Lord. The lionesses also vanish when he tries to finish them off. A spatial portal opens, allowing the targeted lioness to safely reappear next to the Lion King. The pack's strategy becomes clear. The moment he pauses, another lioness lunges forward to bait his attacks. Determined to break their coordination, Si-chen channels Golden Lightning and unleashes a rapid flurry of slashes. However, the beasts keep vanishing before his blades connect. The pack strictly maintains its formation, teleporting back to the Lion King whenever they are in danger. The lionesses force Si-chen to constantly block their glowing claws. Every strike from Si-chen meets the same result, as the lionesses vanish to evade damage. They flawlessly rotate attackers through the portals, keeping a fresh beast on the assault. Si-chen continues to strike the lunging beasts, but the cycle persists as they vanish at the exact moment of impact. The lionesses continue their endless loop of attacks, forcing Si-chen into an exhausting battle. Sweating from the relentless pace, Si-chen glares at the Lion King, realizing the Lord is purposely dragging out the fight to toy with him. Leaping into the air to evade a beast, he wonders why he is stubbornly trying to beat teleporting enemies using only speed. Deciding on a new tactic, Si-chen opens his system interface and initiates a class switch, enveloping himself in freezing blue energy. As ice forms over his body like armor, he reasons that if the Lion King avoids direct combat, he doesn't need to use a close combat class. The transformation turns his hair white and his eyes glowing blue. He resolves to use the mage class to shut down the beast's evasive tactics. The system confirms his class switch to the level 17 Cloud Mage, Frostbone Skeleton King. Standing tall with an icy crown, Si Chen prepares to use his area of effect spells to control the battlefield. Now in his level 17 Cloud Mage class, Frostbone Skeleton King, Si Chen floats high above the battlefield and unleashes a wide-scale spell called Frost Spike. A heavy barrage of ice spikes rains down, causing massive explosions that force the Phantom Lionesses to scatter and retreat. Observing the chaos from above, Si Chen notes that while mages might be weak in close combat, their long-range attacks allow them to completely dominate the battlefield. He targets the Lion King with a concentrated shower of falling ice spikes. Just as the attack is about to hit, the beast uses its spatial ability to vanish. The Lion King emerges from a portal a safe distance away, easily dodging the strike. As the Lion King regroups with the other lionesses, a massive, swirling vortex of icy energy suddenly surrounds them, trapping the entire pack. Si Chen notes that by forcing the beast into his kill zone, he has stopped their hit-and-run tactics. Sensing danger from above, the panicked Lion King looks up to see Si Chen creating a giant sphere of freezing energy called a Frost Blast Bomb. Si Chen coldly states that there is nowhere left for them to hide, leaving the shocked Lion King to let out a desperate roar. Si Chen throws the massive ice bomb downward, detonating upon hitting the ground. The impact covers the entire area in a blinding flash of white light and freezing energy. When the light clears, the devastating power of the spell is shown, leaving the Lion King and its pack frozen solid within jagged pillars of ice. With his targets completely trapped, Si Chen does a rapid class switch, summoning a glowing pink sword into his hand. His eyes glow blue as he confidently declares that the battle on the Dreadspire's first floor is finally over. Using his Stellar Warrior class, Si Chen leaps toward the frozen targets and unleashes a heavy downward strike called Triple Cataclysm. The energy blade easily slices through the trapped lionesses, shattering their icy prisons and cutting them down in one sweep. The defeated beasts dissolve into dark mist, leaving Si Chen standing victorious beside the fallen Lion King. The system confirms his victory. His alias, Ash C, levels up to 24, and he is rewarded with several Phantomane bones and a rare heart. A new prompt appears over the defeated Lion King, showing the boss monster is ready to be devoured. Si Chen stands over the dead beast, gathering a bright light in his hand as he starts the absorption process. His eyes glow red as he focuses his energy on the body, wanting to find out what evasive class the monster used against him. Activating his absorber ability, Si Chen pulls a swirling vortex of dark red energy from the fallen beast into his fist. The energy forms a new system card in his palm, revealing the Lion King's Stellar Tamer class. The card explains its annoying abilities, forcing contracts with other beasts and instantly teleporting them across the battlefield. Examining the Stellar Tamer card, Si Chen reflects that he has never seen a class like this before. This discovery helps him understand why the boss avoided direct combat. He figures out that the Lion King's base stats were simply too weak, forcing it to hide behind its teleporting minions. Reading the card's skills, Si Chen admits that the Stellar Warp teleportation ability is incredibly powerful. He also finds the Stellar Pact ability interesting, though it relies heavily on intimidating the target into submitting. He realizes that to get a contracted beast of his own, he will need to use a very aggressive and terrifying approach. Suddenly, the starry void around him shatters into blinding light, catching him off guard as the environment changes drastically. The illusion breaks completely, revealing the Dreadspire's true first floor, a vast, hot desert of rolling sand dunes. Looking at the barren wasteland and giant skeletons scattered across the sand, Si Chen wonders what disaster caused such destruction. A crackling sound draws his attention to a nearby dune. A vertical rift expands into a fiery portal, signaling that the gateway to the second floor is officially open. Just as he prepares to move, a hostile glare and low growl from the shadows behind him make him quickly turn around. He traces the glowing pink eyes to a large ribcage buried in the sand. Hiding inside is a fluffy lion cub, fiercely growling despite being bound by magical chains. Si Chen is genuinely surprised to find that one little lion managed to survive the battle. Assuming it is the final remaining enemy, he forms a lightning dagger in his hand and prepares to finish the job. As he approaches the hiding cub, he realizes a crucial detail. Since the cub didn't disappear when the Lion King died, it must not be one of the boss's contracted minions. Looking closer at the chains wrapped tightly around the small creature, Si Chen wonders if the Lion King had kept the cub imprisoned there against its will. Staring down at the bound cub, Si Chen gives an intimidating glare, leaving the tiny creature completely terrified. Instead of attacking the cub, Si Chen quickly swings his dagger to shatter the magical chains holding it captive. Freed from its bindings, the little lion falls safely onto the sand. Si Chen turns away, calmly stating that he is giving the cub its freedom back. As he prepares to leave, Si Chen asks the cub if this ruined place used to be its home. The tiny lion shakes off the dust as it watches him. With a sympathetic look, Si Chen reflects on the tragedy of watching loved ones die and seeing everything you care about destroyed. The cub stares at him as Si-Chen admits he knows exactly what that pain feels like. Walking toward the portal, Si-Chen advises the cub to stay alive and keep moving forward, announcing it is time for him to head to the next floor. Suddenly, a glowing system interface appears beside his face showing a beast contract request. Since the beast started it voluntarily, the success rate is 100%. The contract also unlocks 2 passive skills, sharing experience to boost stats, and letting Si-Chen see through the beast's eyes if it is in danger. Si-Chen stops and looks back, genuinely surprised by the unexpected prompt. The white cub sits on the sand, looking up at him as the system identifies it as Lion King Leo and asks if Si-Chen accepts the creature's request to become his contracted beast. Si-Chen looked at the small lion cub, Lion King Leo, asking if it truly wanted to accompany him. The cub answered with a resolute roar. Standing before the fiery portal, Si-Chen explained his plan to ascend the Dread Spire, warning that the monsters would only grow more dangerous. He cautioned the cub that it could die, asking for final confirmation. Leo responded with another fierce roar. Seeing the cub's resolve, Si-Chen accepted its decision. Their eyes glowed with a bright pink pentagram. The system announced that the contract was accepted, officially establishing their pact. The system displayed the Stellar Tamer class and Stellar Pact ability, which allowed forced contracts based on deterrence, but the beast would die if the master perished. 2 passive skills were activated. One boosted the beast's stats and shared its experience, and the other granted the master the beast's vision if it was in danger. Finally, Stellar Warp unlocked, allowing him to teleport to or summon the beast. With their bond formalized, Si-Chen smiled and declared it was time to move. The energetic cub bounded alongside him. Approaching the vortex of flame, Si-Chen gave Leo one rule. During a fight, its only focus was to survive. Si-Chen then stepped through the fiery threshold. They emerged onto a rocky cliff in a vast subterranean landscape filled with molten rock and pillars of liquid fire. Sweating heavily, Si-Chen remarked on the scorching heat, feeling as though the intense temperature could melt him. As they explored, Leo peered over a molten chasm. Si-Chen admitted he had no idea what to expect, but a disturbance near the lava suddenly startled the cub. A blinding light erupted. Si-Chen's instincts flared, his eyes glowing red as he instantly sensed a massive threat. Before he could brace himself, a devastatingly fast attack blasted straight through his chest. Si-Chen bolted upright in bed in the real world, gasping and clutching his chest. He realized he had been instantly killed before seeing his attacker, baffled by its nightmare-level power. Still trembling from the phantom shock of death, he wondered what kind of monster lived on the tower's 2nd floor. His dread was interrupted when his sister, Si-Yun, called from outside his door that breakfast was ready. At the table, Si-Chen stared at a lavish breakfast of ramen and fresh fruit. He told Si-Yun, who was packing her bag, that she had made too much food. Munching on toast, Si-Yun instructed him to wash the dishes and reminded him to hang the laundry later. Watching her put on her sneakers, Si-Chen asked where she was rushing off to on her summer break. She replied she was heading to a summer job. Concerned, Si-Chen reminded her that he was handling their finances and she didn't need to work. Si-Yun smiled, explaining that with his recent success, she refused to be left behind. She added that doing nothing all summer sounded terrible, then cheerfully reminded him to do his chores and left. Following his sister's instructions, Si-Chen washed the dishes and hung the wet laundry in the living room. Finishing his chores, he reflected that his sister had always been like this. Looking at a framed photo of them, he admired how tough and unshakable she remained. Ironically, even though she wasn't an adult, he often felt she was the one looking after him. His thoughts darkened toward his looming responsibilities. Once his school affairs were settled, he had to confront the Demon King Wrath. This battle would keep him away from Si-Yun for a long time. Recalling her smile, he admitted she was the only person he couldn't stop worrying about. Suddenly, an idea struck him. Pressing his fingers to his temple, he wondered if a certain experiment might work. His eyes glowed pink as he channeled his abilities. A portal materialized, and Lion King Leo tumbled out, landing safely in the room. Si-Chen stared in disbelief. He was amazed he could pull his contracted beast out of the Dread Spire and into the real world. The energetic cub quickly made itself at home, darting around the living room and playfully shredding tissues. Looking at his system interface, Si-Chen formed a plan. He could command Leo to protect his sister during his absence. Thanks to his passive skills, if she was in danger, he would share the beast's vision and teleport to her rescue. Knowing Si-Yun adored animals, he recalled her happily petting strays. Watching his beast, Si-Chen smiled, confident that gifting her a little lion cub was a perfect idea. A loud crash from the kitchen interrupted his thoughts. Startled, he went to investigate. Hoping Si-Yun would like her new pet, his confidence evaporated when he saw the kitchen. The cub had caused absolute chaos, shattering plates and gnawing on the faucet. Outside in the city at sunset, a surge of dark energy destroyed a security camera on a utility pole, leaving the area unmonitored. Beneath it, a bleeding man clutched an ice blade and retreated in terror. He pleaded with his unseen attacker as a massive demonic claw manifested before him. The demonic claw lunged forward, brutally impaling the man through the chest. His eyes widened in horror as glowing crimson tendrils hoisted him into the air. A terrifying system interface appeared, displaying a loading bar that coldly indicated the man was being devoured. Elsewhere, an exhausted Si-Yun walked home with bags from her summer job. She sighed in relief, her feet destroyed from the bubble tea summer rush. Her route took her into a dim underpass. Unbeknownst to her, she walked directly beneath the recently destroyed security camera. As her footsteps echoed, a sudden presence made her stop. She turned in surprise as someone from the shadows coldly announced that she was finally there. Waiting in the dark underpass, Jin Duoxin holds a large bouquet of red roses, showing he has been waiting a long time for her. He steps into her path to offer the flowers. He mentions she left school too fast to hear his invitation, adding that he booked the entire top floor of Purple Peak Tower for them tonight. Looking at the flowers, Si-Yun asks how he knows her address. Jin Duoxin proudly credits his father, the city hospital director, saying finding such minor details is easy for him. Unimpressed, Si-Yun coldly replies that they are from different worlds. She tells him not to look for her again and walks away. Annoyed, Jin Duoxin grabs her arm to stop her. He complains about the effort it took to book the venue and angrily asks if she really plans to stand him up and humiliate him in front of his guests. Si-Yun glares at him, saying she doesn't care about his reputation. She then calls him out, telling him it is creepy that he stalked her all the way home. Triggered by being called creepy, Jin Duoxin loses his cool. With a dark expression, he threatens her, warning that she doesn't know who she is talking to or what he could do. Before he can finish his threat, Si-Yun swiftly counters and delivers a hard headbutt to his face. The impact sends him crashing to the ground, crying out in pain as he holds his bleeding nose. Standing over him, an angry Si-Yun yells at him to get his head checked at his father's hospital. Fuming, she walks away, warning him to stay away while complaining that his pathetic stunt ruined her day. Later that evening at her apartment building, a warm light shines from her family's window, offering a stark contrast to the dark alleyway. Upon arriving home, Si-Yun is amazed when she is given the fluffy white lion cub, Leo. Her eyes sparkle with instant adoration. She eagerly snuggles the tiny beast, completely in love, and excitedly asks her brother, Si-Chen, where he found such an adorable creature. Si-Chen introduces the cub as Leo, explaining he is a special gift for her. Overjoyed, she marvels at the fact that she gets to keep a baby lion. As Leo purrs in her arms, Si-Yun notices a strange detail. She wonders why the tiny cub already has a big mane, since normally only adult male lions grow them. She quickly ignores the mystery, declaring she will get him registered in the morning. Watching them bond, Si-Chen feels relieved, knowing his sister will be safe with the beast by her side while he is away. Suddenly, a loud chime from Si-Chen's phone interrupts his thoughts, and he looks down at the bright screen. A satisfied smile appears as he reads an email from the Guild Supervision Bureau. It confirms his application is approved. Relieved, Si-Chen thinks everything can now go exactly as planned. With his home life secure and paperwork done, Si-Chen looks confident. He is finally ready for his next major hurdle, the graduation tiebreaker duel against Gong Ting in 6 days. 6 days later, the tiebreaker exam begins at the city outskirts in Greenlight Forest. Director Gong Xuan tells both candidates to pay attention as he explains the exam details. Standing before a green portal at the base of a massive tree, Gong Xuan announces the school chose this wild dungeon for the tiebreaker. He adds that recent surveys rate the dungeon as D rank. He confirms that both Si-Chen and Gong Ting will enter at the same time and take the exam inside the same dungeon. He then warns the students that wild dungeons are unmapped and much more dangerous than standard school dungeons. Because of this risk, 3 senior guild members from Easternia will join as examiners. They will enter the dungeon with the candidates to keep them safe and score their performance. The team includes Ivan from the Imperial Guild, Yasmin Kai from the Divine Eye Guild, and Sato Woda from the Silver Guild. Gong Xuan explains that the final scores will be decided by what these 3 examiners see. Meanwhile, a live video feed of the exam is shown in a dark VIP room at the academy. Watching the screen, Gong Lin smirks. He silently hopes the 3 examiners handle their secret deal properly, ensuring a clean job with no loose ends. In the same room, Principal Yuan Long asks Vice Chairman Carl Cavendish why he is still at the academy since his official schedule ended 2 days ago. Carl laughs, watching Si-Chen and Gong Ting on the screen. He replies that nothing is more interesting than this event, admitting he hasn't seen 2 real prodigies fight in years and refuses to miss it. Pointing toward the green portal, Director Gong Xuan loudly declares the official start of the graduation tiebreaker exam. With fierce determination, the match between Si-Chen and Gong Ting begins. Without hesitation, both candidates walk directly into the glowing portal. Si-Chen steps out on the other side, covered in the lingering green energy of the portal. He looks around his new surroundings, finding himself in a gloomy, dark landscape filled with dead trees. Standing near the entrance, the examiners take in the eerie environment. Yasmin notes it looks like a flower-type dungeon. Beside her, Yvonne offers a cigarette to Sato, who shushes him, reminding him they are working and the camera drone is recording. Suddenly, a loud buzzing sound echoes in Si Chen's mind. He looks in shock as a bright red flashing hologram projects from his chest, painting his face in a red glow. The system flashes a large alert, warning him that a highly dangerous creature is nearby. Stunned, Si Chen realizes this is the first time his demon heart has ever issued such a serious warning. Soon the system alert abruptly vanishes, leaving Si Chen wondering if a high-ranking monster truly lurks inside this mere D-rank dungeon. He and Gong Ting continue their trek down a desolate path framed by massive, gnarled roots and twisting branches. Gong Ting confidently takes the lead, navigating the foggy terrain, while Si Chen follows closely behind. Observing the candidates from a high ridge, Yasmin notes the fog's suffocating thickness. Beside her, Sato Woda orders the examiner team to stay on high alert and keep their eyes glued to the examinees. A loud crack abruptly shatters the tense silence as the rocky ground violently ruptures before the students. A grotesque, massive insectoid creature bursts from the earth, identified by the system as a poison cage ant, a D-rank flower archer. Reacting instantly, Gong Ting unsheathes his katana and charges aggressively at the towering beast. Watching this swift response, Ivan praises the young man's exceptional reaction time. However, Sato Woda cautions that wild dungeon monsters are faster, crueler, and far more underhanded than anything used in school training. The poison cage ant initiates its attack by firing a toxic volley of glowing green projectiles, but Gong Ting agilely deflects every strike with his swift blade. With a fluid, powerful motion, Gong Ting leaps into the air and slices the monstrous insect cleanly in half. As the ant's severed upper torso crashes heavily to the ground, Gong Ting's blade flares with intense golden energy before he thrusts it straight through the fallen creature. Channeling his nuclear warrior class, Gong Ting executes a devastating blazeblade barrage, obliterating the monster in a massive, fiery explosion. Observing from the high ridge, Yasmin projects a glowing green 10 from her wrist device. She awards Gong Ting a perfect score for his field response, commending his instant reaction and effortless neutralization of the monster's ranged attacks. Yvonne also displays a perfect 10, praising Gong Ting's combat logic. He notes that severing the venom-launching organ immediately has effectively stripped the beast of its fighting capability. Sato Woda proudly holds up his own 10, awarding top marks for finishing power due to Gong Ting's unhesitating, clean, and decisive kill. As Gong Ting calmly holds his glowing sword, the examiners marvel at his surgical positioning, crowd control, and execution. They agree that maintaining such ice-cold composure against a wild monster is truly exceptional for a student. Sato Woda then directs their attention to Si Chen, who is casually wandering away with his hands in his pockets. Sato heavily criticizes his lack of reaction when the monster appeared, dismissing this apparent disinterest as a complete failure. Gong Ting remains silent, simply staring at his rival's remarkably relaxed and unbothered demeanor. In the VIP observation room, Carl Cavendish and Principal Yuan Long closely monitor Si Chen. Carl casually asks the principal what he thinks the young man is actually trying to accomplish out in the fog. With a knowing smile, Principal Yuan Long deduces that Si Chen is actively hunting for something specific. Down in the dungeon, Si Chen pauses, tapping his foot against a tangled cluster of giant tree roots. He realizes this central spot offers a way to wipe out the entire threat in a single, sweeping move. Golden lightning crackles to life in his hand, forming a bright, jagged dagger. Declaring he has finally found his target, Si Chen ruthlessly plunges the lightning blade straight down into the roots. The strike sends a massive shockwave of golden lightning deep underground, violently rupturing the earth. A hidden nest of poison cage ants is blasted upward, completely engulfed and obliterated by the explosive electrical energy. Sweating profusely, the examiners realize Si Chen has deliberately targeted the monster nest. They question his sanity, terrified that provoking a horde of D-rank monsters will get everyone killed. Watching the chaotic explosion, Gong Ting's usual composure cracks, leaving him visibly shocked and wondering what Si Chen plans next. Gathering momentum, Si Chen channels intense electricity into his boots and forcefully launches himself upward. Tapping into his lightning assassin class, he activates his flash god skill, rocketing into the sky as a blinding streak of golden light. Moving at incomprehensible speeds, Si Chen intercepts the swarm of poison cage ants launched by his explosive trap. He unleashes a rapid, relentless flurry of slashes against the airborne monsters. Darting between targets mid-air, he leaves behind a zigzagging web of golden lightning, systematically shredding the entire cluster of beasts in seconds before gracefully descending back to Earth. As Si Chen touches down, the severed remains of the D-rank monsters rain from the sky while golden lightning slowly dissipates from his hands. Up on the ridge, the three examiners are completely dumbfounded. Sweating in disbelief, Sato Woda struggles to process the spectacle. As Si Chen casually casually brushes green monster blood off his jacket. The examiners realize in shock that his official school report lists him as a mere E-rank awakener. They find it utterly absurd that an E-rank student can effortlessly wipe out a massive swarm of D-rank monsters. Realizing they cannot logically justify giving such a flawless performance a low grade, the compromised examiners frantically whisper among themselves. Desperate to fulfill their corrupt deal to sabotage Si Chen, they consider inventing unfair excuses, like flagging his approach as dangerously reckless or penalizing his technique. Back in the VIP observation room, Carl erupts into boisterous laughter, praising Principal Yuan Long for accurately predicting that Si Chen is hiding his true potential. Carl notes how spectacular it is to witness such an intense display when the exam has barely begun, eagerly anticipating how Gong Ting will respond to this overwhelming power. Standing behind him, Gong Lin remains dead silent, his expression rapidly darkening as he watches the monitors. Suddenly, the live feed on the large monitor is torn apart by heavy digital static. The image glitches wildly before going entirely blank, replaced by a stark red warning indicating a lost signal. Principal Yuan Long furrows his brow, staring at the dead monitor and questioning aloud why the transmission is cutting out yet again. Outside the dungeon entrance, rapid warning beeps blare from the monitoring equipment. A technician frantically types at his console as the system flashes a critical alert regarding a severe signal anomaly. The diagnostic screen shows the dungeon's official D-rank classification violently glitching into an unreadable question mark. Simultaneously, internal communication signal strength crashes to absolute zero. The technician stares at the corrupted data in pure shock. Director Gong Xuan breaks into a cold sweat, demanding to know what catastrophic event is happening inside the dungeon. Their panic peaks when the portal's swirling green energy suddenly dissipates. The glowing threshold vanishes entirely, leaving nothing but an ordinary empty cave opening that effectively traps the candidates inside. Deep within the isolated dungeon, a sinister, ethereal melody begins echoing through the gloom, physically manifesting as floating, glowing pink and green musical notes. Si Chen freezes, listening intently to the eerie tune. He immediately recognizes the terrifying presence hidden within the melody. It is the voice of the Demon King, Wrath. Outside the dungeon at 4 p.m., the cave entrance suddenly seals itself, morphing into a solid rock face. Director Gong Xuan panics, demanding to know how the gateway has vanished. A technician reports a complete loss of connection, noting that the equipment threw a series of critical signal errors just moments prior. Sweating with anxiety, he orders his staff to get command on the line immediately. He fears that a catastrophe has just unfolded inside the isolated dungeon. Meanwhile, inside the dungeon, an eerie melody physically manifests as floating musical notes in the air. Si Chen and Gong Ting pause, taking notice of the bizarre phenomenon surrounding them. The examiners are equally confused by the sudden shift in the atmosphere. Yasmin Kai asks the others if they hear the noise, and Sato Wota confirms that it sounds like strange music. Feeling the heavy rhythmic thuds of the melody, Si Chen grows deeply alarmed. He immediately recognizes the sound as the voice of the Demon King, Wrath. He desperately wonders why Wrath is present in this low-level dungeon, knowing the Demon King is not supposed to appear for another 3 years. Suddenly, the Demon Heart system bombards Si Chen with severe high-danger alerts. He tenses up, realizing the interface is screaming at him about an imminent, lethal threat. As heavy thuds shake the ground beneath him, Si Chen realizes that something massive stands right behind him in the fog. A sinister laugh echoes through the cavern as a towering, shadowy figure approaches through the thick mist. Visibly shaken by the overwhelming presence, Sato Wota wonders what kind of monster hides in the fog, just as 2 glowing eyes pierce the gloom. The creature steps into view, revealing itself as a grotesque humanoid mantis monster radiating dark energy. Glaring down at the group, it sinisterly welcomes the humans and declares that they have walked right into its trap. Stunned to hear the creature speak, Sato Wota realizes that a monster capable of forming words must be at least a high-tier C-rank beast. He frantically questions how such a powerful entity can possibly exist inside a D-rank dungeon. Fearing the high-level monster will slaughter the students, Sato summons a massive, glowing axe and leaps forward to intercept it. He urgently orders everyone to get behind him for protection. Before Sato can even land his strike, the mantis demon counters with blinding speed. In a single, brutal motion, it swings its scythe-like appendage and cleanly severs Sato's entire arm. As the other examiners freeze in horror, the mantis demon instantly vanishes and reappears directly behind Gong Ting. Raising its bloodied scythe, it mocks the group, telling them to curl up and accept their fate. With a sickening thud, the monster ruthlessly drives its blade straight through Gong Ting's shoulder and out of his chest, commanding the young man to die. Despite being impaled, Gong Ting grits his teeth through the agonizing pain. Instead of falling, a fierce, crazed grin spreads across his face. Capitalizing on the monster's close proximity, Gong Ting swings his flaming golden sword down and brutally chops off the creature's trapped scythe arm, leaving the mantis demon wide-eyed in shock. Without missing a beat, Gong Ting follows up with a powerful mid-air kick that launches the crippled beast backward across the rocky terrain. Bleeding heavily from the massive hole in his shoulder, Gong Ting ignores his severe injuries and glares with glowing eyes. He declares that since the Overlord drew first blood, the kill belongs to him under the principle of combat priority. He fiercely warns Si Chen not to dare interfere in the fight. Si Chen watches the monster intently, his eyes glowing green as he uses his abilities to assess the creature's true power. The system interface updates the mantis demon's classification, confirming to everyone that it is actually a highly dangerous C-rank high-tier beast. Seeing the massive hole in Gong Ting's shoulder, Yasmin Kai urgently yells at him to get medical treatment. She pleads with him to suspend the exam and let them pull him out, warning that the monster is completely out of his league. Gong Ting flatly refuses. Gathering intense fire magic in his hand, he completely rejects the idea of giving up. Si Chen watches in shock as Gong Ting presses his burning hand directly against his bleeding chest, using the raw heat of his own flames to painfully cauterize the severe wound. Pushing through the agonizing pain, Gong Ting fiercely declares that the fight does not end until one of them is dead. Without hesitation, Gong Ting leaps high into the air and brings his flaming sword down toward the crippled mantis demon to continue his assault. Meanwhile, outside the sealed dungeon, Silas Lin, the leader of the Imperial Guild's King Squad, assesses the vanished entrance. He calmly explains that this phenomenon indicates a highly intelligent monster operates inside, one that purposely lured the humans in before snapping the trap shut. Director Gongshen panics, desperately asking if there is any way to force the entrance back open since the students are still trapped inside. Silas coldly states that there is only one way to make the exit reappear. Someone on the inside must track down and kill the dungeon's overlord. Desperate for a silver lining, Director Gongshuan tries to rationalize the situation. He suggests that since a standard D-rank dungeon caps out at a C-rank overlord, the trapped examiners and students should still have a fighting chance to kill it and escape. Silas quickly shatters his optimism. He reveals that the initial D-rank reading is just a fabricated mask created by the Overlord to purposely disguise the dungeon's true, deadly nature. Connecting the clues, Silas deduces that this specific dungeon is the culprit behind the recent string of Awakener disappearances his team has been investigating. He gravely informs a horrified Gongshuan that the trap they stand in front of is actually an extraordinarily dangerous B-rank dungeon. Meanwhile, in the dungeon, the monstrous insect attacks relentlessly with its scythe-like arms. Gong Ting stands his ground, parrying the heavy blows with his flaming katana. He quickly retreats to evade a sweeping strike. As the beast raises its arm for a devastating blow, Gong Ting vaults into the air. The creature's attack misses. Its bladed limb buries deep into the ground and becomes firmly stuck. Seizing the opportunity, Gong Ting declares that he has the monster trapped. With a swift, powerful swing of his glowing sword, he severs the creature's head. The decapitated head tumbles across the rocky terrain as the rest of the group gathers. Yasmin watches in stunned disbelief, amazed that Gong Ting has managed to defeat the Overlord entirely on his own. She admits that his strength is genuinely formidable. Nearby, Ivan channels a green healing aura into Sato Wota's injured arm, asking if he is recovering. Sweating, Sato expresses his gratitude for the timely intervention. However, Sato's relief vanishes as he checks his smartwatch. He alerts the others in a panic that his device has lost its signal, leaving them completely isolated. Yasmin and Ivan immediately check their own gear. Yasmin confirms her connection is gone, while Ivan grimly notes that every signal, including their compass positioning system, is completely dead. Sato panics, demanding to know when the camera drones went offline. Gong Ting looks back at him in confusion. Suddenly, the headless mantis monster stands back up. Without warning, the decapitated creature lunges straight at a shocked Gong Ting. Si Chen instantly intervenes, unleashing a flurry of golden lightning strikes that slice the creature into pieces. The system confirms the kill, awarding him experience points. Still reeling, Gong Ting demands to know how the monster kept moving after he cleanly chopped off its head. Si Chen calmly explains that the mantis was never the true overlord. It has been hypnotized the entire time, allowing its body to fight even after death. He urgently orders the examiners and Gong Ting to leave the dungeon immediately, warning that any of them could be the next target. Defensive, Gong Ting questions how Si Chen could possibly know that. Sato angrily accuses Si Chen of losing his mind, insisting there can only be one C-rank overlord in the dungeon. He argues that the high-tier monster they just fought has to be the boss, as nothing else makes sense. Before Si Chen can argue further, his system floods his vision with critical warnings of a highly dangerous creature. Suddenly, a massive, pulsing wave of psychic energy sweeps through the cavern. Caught in the blast, Yasmin, Ivan, and Sato's eyes begin to glow with a sinister pink light as the true Overlord's hypnosis takes complete control of their minds. Realizing his warning has come too late, Si Chen quickly activates a wireless earbud. He immediately recognizes the distinct pulsating sound wave. In his past life, he witnessed the Demon King, Wrath, use this exact frequency to seamlessly hypnotize and slaughter millions of ordinary humans across the globe. He turns to see Yasmin, Ivan, and Sato perfectly synchronized, marching forward in a mindless trance. Convinced that the dungeon's true overlord is directly connected to Wrath, Si-Chen coldly resolves to face the creature head-on. As he follows the hypnotized examiners deeper into the dark cavern, Si-Chen's system continuously bombards him with warnings about highly dangerous creatures ahead. The group soon arrives at a massive, eerie lair filled with glowing green egg sacs, where towering dark serpents guard a central, cloth-draped figure. Si-Chen remains completely unaffected by the monster's alpha frequency thanks to the counter-frequency audio track playing in his earbud, a precaution he prepared specifically for Wrath. However, knowing the unprotected examiners could drop dead from the mental strain at any second, he decides to kill the overlord immediately. The sinister entity senses their arrival, its voice echoing through the cavern as it hungers for their fresh flesh. Si-Chen glares back coldly, ready to fight. In a flashback to years ago, an exhausted and bloody young Gong Ting stands over his brother Gong Cheng after brutally beating him with a broken wooden stick. Watching the violent scene, their father, Gong Lin, coldly congratulates 8-year-old Gong Ting on his victory. Sitting comfortably at a fancy dining table, Gong Lin explains the family's harsh rules. The winner earns the right to eat, while the loser, young Gong Chung, must kneel on the ground until sunrise. Left outside, a bruised and beaten Gong Chung kneels obediently as his stomach growls from hunger. Gong Ting secretly approaches his defeated brother and offers him a piece of bread. Surprised and scared, Gong Chung whispers that their father will severely punish him if he gets caught. Ignoring the risk, Gong Ting firmly tells his brother to shut up and eat. However, Gong Ting's act of kindness is quickly discovered. He is viciously slapped across the face and forced to kneel on the floor, trembling as his father holds a whip over him. Standing over his beaten son, Gong Lin asks if he understands why the Gong family has so much power and status today. He proudly declares that it is because he has never lost a single fight. He drills his ruthless mindset into his son, stating that winners make the rules and losers are forced to follow them. Still defiant despite the abuse, young Gong Ting asks his father if beating him means he gets to make the rules. Gong Lin simply laughs at the challenge. Years later, a badly beaten Gong Ting collapses to his hands and knees. He coughs up blood as his shattered sword falls to the ground, angrily asking his father why he refused his challenge for a fair duel. He demands to know why his father ordered Silas Lin to step in and attack him instead. Unbothered, Gong Lin smirks and explains that his true strength isn't just in his own hands, but in the power and authority he commands over others. Looking down at his defeated son, he says that the world does not run on fair rules. Instead, it runs on one simple truth: you must win no matter what. He continues to drill into Gong Ting that the method doesn't matter, only the final result. As a member of the Gong family, he is expected to always be number one, even if it means throwing away his family, his loyalty, and his own dreams. Gong Lin coldly finishes his lecture, stating that winning is the only reason Gong Ting is allowed to live. These harsh words echo back to Gong Ting's childhood, permanently scarring him with the belief that his survival depends entirely on always winning. Back in the present, the group stands in front of the massive hidden monster overlord. It is surrounded by a nest of giant snakes and glowing green egg sacs. Si-Chen remains completely unaffected by the creature's mind control magic because he prepared a special audio track in his earbud, expecting to face the Demon King Wrath sooner or later. Knowing the hypnotized examiners have no protection and could die from the mental strain at any second, he decides to kill the beast immediately. Right before he can attack, Gong Ting suddenly grabs his wrist and desperately whispers for him to stop. To break free from the monster's mind control, Gong Ting roughly digs his fingers right into his own severe chest wound, spilling fresh blood onto the floor. Breathing heavily from the intense pain, he admits he doesn't know how Si-Chen resisted the trance. He explains that hurting himself is his own way of keeping his mind clear. He urgently warns Si-Chen that a reckless attack will give away their position and get everyone killed. Sweating heavily, he points out the countless glowing eggs surrounding the monster's throne. He explains that if they trigger the nest, they will be swarmed by dozens of C-rank monsters, making survival impossible. Looking at the trap, he realizes the smart overlord disguised its home as a weak dungeon to lure in and kill unsuspecting awakeners. Because of this trick, he is sure the monster will eventually come to them on its own. He suggests a new plan. They should play along and stay still. The second the overlord gets close enough, they will launch a surprise attack and kill it together. Si-Chen looks a bit impressed, admitting he didn't expect Gong Ting to think so clearly and logically under pressure. Despite the compliment, Si-Chen completely rejects the plan. He warns Gong Ting that waiting won't work because this specific monster doesn't even need to move to kill them. He explains that the overlord doesn't need to attack them physically. With just a single thought, it can force anyone under its spell to kill themselves. Just as he says this, the hypnotized examiners prepare to end their own lives. Sato pulls out a saw, Yasmin points her gun at her head, and Ivan begins choking himself. Acting instantly, Si-Chen uses his lightning speed to strike all 3 examiners, knocking them safely unconscious before they can hurt themselves. The sudden movement catches the Overlord's attention. Realizing its prey is fighting back, the monster angrily declares that its food has been ruined. Reacting to the threat, the Overlord triggers the glowing green egg sacs, causing them to violently burst open. Dozens of dangerous C-rank blade arm mantises crawl out of the eggs as the Overlord orders the swarm to kill the intruders. As the deadly horde surrounds them, Gong Ting realizes their stealth plan is ruined and decides it is time for an emergency backup plan. Drawing his sword, he steps firmly in front of the unconscious examiners. He orders Si-Chen to grab the 3 adults and escape the dungeon, promising to hold off the monster swarm all by himself. Si-Chen is completely surprised by Gong Ting's selfless choice to sacrifice his own life for their safety. Gong Ting admits he knows he can't defeat the entire swarm of C-rank monsters alone. However, he firmly states that he can at least buy Si-Chen enough time to run away with the others. Clashing his flaming sword against a charging mantis, Gong Ting yells that he is taking responsibility. He blames himself for demanding the tiebreaker duel and dragging everyone into this deadly trap. The overwhelming physical strength of the monster's strike overpowers Gong Ting, easily knocking him backward. Stabbing his sword into the ground to stop himself from sliding, a panting Gong Ting stubbornly insists that since the situation is entirely his fault, he has to be the one to fix it. Si-Chen steps forward, admitting that he had completely misjudged his rival's character. As his system starts a class switch, he reminds Gong Ting that he wasn't the only one who agreed to the duel. Fully transforming into his level 24 Lightning Assassin class, Si-Chen summons a glowing blade of golden electricity. Surrounded by the swarm of mantis demons and the giant overlord's buzzing aura, Si-Chen channels his golden lightning and confidently announces that he has a plan. Bleeding heavily, Gong Ting quickly rejects the idea of fighting. He warns Si-Chen that the Overlord's power is on a whole different level, guessing the monster is at least a B rank, or maybe even an A rank threat. He urgently tells Si-Chen to grab the unconscious examiners and run, insisting that running away is their only real choice. Si-Chen agrees that the monster is a nightmare, but he points out a huge problem with that plan since the dungeon gates are locked down. He explains that if the exit was still open, the Imperial Guild's rescue teams would have already rushed in to save them. Gong Ting is completely shocked to hear that they are trapped inside. Si-Chen closely watches the silent overlord, trying to figure out how to handle the deadly situation. He figures that if the creature is really an A-rank monster, its combat power must be close to the Phantom Mane Lion King he fought back in the Dreadspire. Suddenly, the swarm attacks. A mantis demon jumps forward, but Si-Chen easily blocks its heavy scythe using his lightning dagger. Another mantis dives in from above, making Gong Ting panic and shout for Si-Chen to watch out. Before the monster can land a hit, Si-Chen and Gong Ting swing their glowing blades perfectly together, each cutting down an attacking mantis demon in a flash. A moment later, a huge swarm of mantis demons screeches and charges right at them. Holding his bleeding chest, Gong Ting grits his teeth, realizing that with so many monsters coming at them, it is only a matter of time before they are completely overwhelmed. Ignoring the terrible odds, Si-Chen focuses his energy. Tapping into his Lightning Assassin class, he forms several crackling blades of electricity in his hand. With a quick move, he shoots out a wave of golden lightning blades, piercing right through several charging beasts all at once. Not stopping there, he activates his Flash God skill. Moving at blinding speed, he rushes straight into the swarm, easily cutting off the heads of multiple monsters in a single dash. Gong Ting watches this crazy show of power in total disbelief, thinking it should be impossible. He knows that the assassin class naturally has very weak base strength, making them almost useless against large groups of enemies. Yet, he watches as Si-Chen perfectly dodges a massive scythe swing. Gong Ting then notices that every single one of Si-Chen's strikes perfectly hits a weak point. He realizes that Si-Chen is completely making up for his class's lack of raw power by using pure speed and perfect technique. Staring at the blurry afterimages, Gong Ting is amazed by just how fast Si-Chen is moving. As Si-Chen kills the rest of the swarm in a storm of lightning slashes, Gong Ting figures out that his rival's speed is easily at an A-rank level, if not higher. Inspired by Si-Chen's amazing skills, Gong Ting grips his glowing sword with new energy, realizing they might actually live through this fight. Annoyed by how stubborn they are, the Overlord steps in. It charges up a massive wave of dark pink energy, starting a powerful boost. The dark energy flows over the remaining mantis demons, greatly increasing their strength and energy. The Overlord angrily orders the powered-up swarm to chop Si-Chen to pieces right away. Si-Chen stands ready with his electric blades glowing bright. One of the buffed mantises tries to crush him, but Si Chen easily jumps over the attack and slices the monster to pieces in midair. Seeing the fight get even wilder, a fierce Gong Ting yells out, telling him to hold on as he gets his own blade ready. Si Chen pushes himself to his limits, unleashing a non-stop storm of golden slashes against the supercharged swarm. Suddenly, a mantis demon appears right behind him. Relying on his crazy speed, Si Chen vanishes just in time to dodge the deadly strike. He reappears and instantly fights back with a rapid storm of close-range slashes, but his attacks fail to cut through the creature's tough new armor. The angry mantis hits back with a heavy blow. Si Chen blocks the strike but gets pushed far back by the sheer force of the hit. Panting heavily, he realizes that the Overlord's boost has pushed every single stat of these monsters right into the B-rank level. He notes that their shells have become as tough as solid iron, making it impossible to easily stab their weak spots, so he figures they need a way to completely break the armor first. Behind him, Gong Ting shouts his thanks, knowing Si Chen has bought him the time he needs. Abandoning his speed, stamina, and elemental control without hesitation, he pours every remaining ounce of power into pure strength. Flames erupt around his sword in a massive exploding pillar, Leah. Later that evening in the rental apartment, Ju Tong arrives with bags of groceries and apologizes for taking so long to buy the drinks. Si Yun, with Leo resting on her shoulder, tells her not to worry since her brother is not back yet anyway. Ju Tong is surprised to hear that he is still out. Ju Tong asks if Si Yun's brother knows she passed the Art Academy exam. Si Yun replies that she has not told him yet, but she did let him know she had huge news to share. Figuring he is just running late, she suggests they start without him. Just then, Si Yun holds up an empty jar and realizes they have run out of garlic sauce. She tells Ju Tong to wait at the apartment while she and Leo make a quick run to the store, adding that she will grab some snacks so they can celebrate properly. Shortly after, Si Yun finishes her shopping at a local convenience store and heads back outside. As they walk, Leo happily eats some food while hiding inside her backpack. Si Yun smiles and calls him a little angel for being so quiet the entire time. She warmly praises the cub for being a good boy and promises to buy him cookies next time. Without Si Yun knowing, she is being watched from a nearby alley. A man standing with a hooded partner holds a picture of her and reports over his radio that he has found their target. He then asks if they should attack. A voice over the radio tells him to wait and follow her until she is out of range of the street cameras. The man confirms the order and keeps watching. As Si Yun walks home, the sound of heavy footsteps follows closely behind her. The stalkers match her pace and start to close the distance. Knowing that the men have been following her since she left the store, Si Yun wonders what exactly they want from her. Hidden inside her backpack, Leo lets out a warning growl. Si Yun gently holds him and asks the cub if he senses the danger too. She whispers for Leo to stay hidden inside. Looking back at her followers with a brave and sharp expression, she quietly says that her night just got interesting. Deep inside the dungeon, a heavily panting Si Chen realizes the monster boss's dark energy has pushed the bug swarm to a much higher threat level. Seeing that their shells have become as tough as solid iron, he knows he can no longer easily cut through them. He realizes he needs to find a way to break their armor first. Just then, Gong Ting shouts his thanks, telling Si Chen that he bought him exactly enough time. Giving up his speed and energy, Gong Ting turns all his remaining power into raw strength and bursts into a massive pillar of flames. With his strength at its limit and his eyes glowing, an angry Gong Ting announces his final move. Swinging his flaming sword, he unleashes a huge wave of fire, declaring he will burn the monster to ashes no matter how strong it is. The massive fiery attack crashes into the charging swarm, violently burning the bug monsters. Tearing right through the group of enemies, the giant blade of fire strikes directly at the calm, waiting boss. The strike explodes upon impact, trapping the monster in a huge, blinding blast of fire. Barely able to stand, Gong Ting falls to his knees and leans heavily on his sword. He realizes that his physical energy and magic are completely gone. Wiping sweat from his face, a tired Gong Ting breathes a sigh of relief. As the flames clear to show the burned remains of the swarm, he happily says that the fight is finally over. However, an evil laugh echoes from inside the fading fire. The boss calls out, mocking them by asking if that was really all they could do. Gong Ting freezes in pure shock, while Si Chen calmly looks toward the source of the voice. The smoke clears to show the boss completely unhurt, protected inside a massive, glowing green shield. The monster glares down at them and calls their attack disappointing. Total fear washes over Gong Ting's face. He loses all hope, realizing he just used every last drop of his power and still failed to leave a single scratch on the creature. Staying perfectly quiet, Si Chen looks closely at the enemy's defense. He realizes that right before the fire attack hit, the boss drained the life from the remaining monster eggs to build a shield strong enough to block anything. Barely able to stay standing, a defeated Gong Ting breathes heavily. He loses all hope and wonders if this is really how they will die. Stepping past the broken Gong Ting, Si Chen offers him a deal. Starting to change his combat class, he offers to let Gong Ting take first place in the exam, but only if Si Chen gets to keep the entire cash prize. He adds one strict rule: Gong Ting must never speak a word about what he is about to see. Calling forth his glowing sword, Si Chen fully changes into his secret demonic class. Gong Ting stares in disbelief, shocked to realize that his rival actually has two different combat classes. Without warning, streams of glowing pink energy begin to violently pull themselves out from the dead bodies of the bugs. He activates a special skill that drains the leftover energy and strength from the nearby dead bodies, turning it directly into his own power. A massive pillar of pink energy bursts around Si Chen as his power levels rapidly shoot up to new heights. Covering his face from the strong wind, Gong Ting watches the incredible display of power in pure shock. Even the boss pauses, silently staring at the boy. Breathing out a cloud of energy through his sharp teeth, Si Chen feels his strength and stamina reach their absolute limit. Glowing with a dark demonic energy, he confidently repeats his earlier claim. He will kill the monster himself. The Overlord makes its next move, casting Soul Rest Enigma. A surge of energy burst from the monster's glowing green shield, flooding the cavern with psychic pressure. The mental assault slams into Gong Ting. Bleeding and spent, he grabs his head in agony, cursing the hypnosis clawing at his mind again. Si Chen, fully transformed, doesn't even flinch. The Overlord freezes when Si Chen starts walking toward it, with his massive sword resting on his shoulder. Confused, the monster demands to know why its hypnosis has no effect on him. Frantic to put him down, the Overlord fires off Sonic Hell, blasting a shockwave outward. The force rips through the cavern, but Si Chen holds his ground while Gong Ting buckles under the pressure, crying out in pain. The Overlord locks its gaze on the boy. Si Chen stares right back, eyes glowing. He takes a step forward and keeps walking, heading straight for the shielded monster. Panic hits the Overlord. It stammers, unable to understand how its attack did nothing. The Overlord commands its summons to tear Si Chen apart, and a massive shadowy serpent lunges at him. Si Chen grips his glowing sword and with one brutal swing splits the serpent's head in two. The beast crashes to the ground. Two more giant serpents dive at him from above. He braces, swings his blade in a wide arc, and takes both their heads off in a single cut. With his path clear, Si Chen charges straight toward the Overlord. The monster laughs, declaring its barrier can't be broken. Si Chen asks if that's true and leaps high, positioning himself above the glowing shield. The system announces his stellar warrior skill, Ossuary Collapse, draining the remaining strength from surrounding monster corpses to feed his own power. Si Chen lets out a roar. He brings his sword down with everything he has, and the barrier shatters into pieces. The Overlord stares in disbelief. Gong Ting can't believe it. His rival just destroyed the shield in a single hit. Si Chen drops his weapon and charges his fist with blinding energy. The system confirms the activation of Triple Cataclysm in crushing mode. He drives his fist through the Overlord's body, blowing it apart with a surge of raw energy. The punch slams the Overlord into the ground. As the smoke clears from the crater, the Overlord, reduced to a shadowy remnant, mutters, half dead. Standing over the broken monster, Si Chen orders it to talk. He wants to know its connection to Wrath. The Overlord is stunned, asking how a human could know Lord Wrath's name. Si Chen demands an answer. The Overlord spits back that if it knew where the Demon King was, it wouldn't be rotting in this dungeon instead of trying to break his seal. Si Chen freezes. The implication hits him. Someone in this world managed to seal Wrath away. The Overlord bursts into laughter, warning that Lord Wrath will rise again. It vows the Demon King will reclaim his armies and slaughter every last human down to the bone. The Overlord's core ruptures and dissolves into the air. Si Chen reaches out as the system activates, devouring the monster's glowing green essence. The system confirms the absorption, granting Si Chen a new Flower Mage class called Phantom Sorcerer, equipped with the Overlord's psychic attacks and barrier skills. His level jumps to 25, and he earns 3 rare black-scale snake galls. Reviewing his new class, Si Chen connects the dots. Wrath didn't just appear out of nowhere in the future. The Demon King had already been trapped in their world long before the invasion began. A massive hidden conflict happened in the past to seal him, and Si Chen knows nothing about it. His thoughts break when he notices Gong Ting limping toward him. Injured and coughing blood, Gong Ting admits he never expected to fight a dual-class user. He concedes that Si Chen is on another level and acknowledges him as the winner of their duel. Gong Ting gives his word that Si Chen's secret is safe, promising to take everything he saw today to his grave. His strength gives out. He coughs up more blood and drops against the cavern wall. Si Chen tells him to hang on. With the Overlord dead, the dungeon exit should reopen, and the guild's rescue teams will pour in any second. Then Si Chen freezes. His passive pact skill triggers, flooding his mind with a warning. The system forces a shared vision on him, showing what his contracted beast, Leo, is looking at. A hostile man radiating dark, swirling energy. Si Chen realizes where Leo is and yells his sister's name. The psychic link reveals an awakener with glowing green eyes, commanding shadowy tentacles. The man is cornering a terrified Si Yun, who clutches Leo to her chest, shielding the small cub from the creeping appendages. Late afternoon on June 24th, Si-yoon is making her way back home through the narrow streets of the city. Ever since she stepped out of the convenience store, she's had some seriously creepy shadows matching her every step. Two smirking thugs are trailing right behind her. Hidden inside her backpack, little Leo can sense the hostility too, letting out a tiny, protective growl. Feeling the backpack shift, Si-yoon asks her cub if he's sensing the danger as well. But instead of panicking, she gently holds the bag and tells her little partner to stay completely hidden inside. Rather than getting scared, Si-yoon turns back with a fierce, brave expression. Honestly, she's almost glad they followed her because her boring night just got a whole lot more interesting. She immediately taps into her survival instincts. When you're being followed, rule number 1 is to get somewhere crowded. Charging down a flight of stairs, she heads straight for the bustling market district. At this time of evening, the local restaurant row is absolutely packed. Using the chaos of the dinner rush to her advantage, she quickly slips into the massive crowd, effortlessly blending in with the shoppers and diners to break her stalker's line of sight. Behind her, the thugs are quickly losing ground. The beanie-wearing guy starts aggressively shoving people aside, frantically trying to force his way through the dense crowd. But Si-yoon's evasion game is on point. The exact millisecond they get distracted by the busy crowd and look away, she vanishes into thin air. The two thugs are left standing in the middle of the street in absolute shock. They panic, looking around for any sign of her. Meanwhile, Si-yoon makes a quick run into a quiet, secluded alleyway to hide. She catches her breath and looks back, relieved to confirm that the creepy stalkers are finally gone. Just as Si-yoon thinks she's managed to escape, a heavy step echoes right in front of her. She stops dead in her tracks, startled to find a shady older man with slicked back white hair standing on the steps of her own apartment building. Casually puffing on a cigarette, he mockingly complains that he's been waiting forever because the building's door is locked. Her heart drops as she realizes this was a coordinated setup. Horrified, Si-yoon backs away, demanding to know who they are and how on earth they figured out exactly where she lives. Before she can get any answers, the two thugs from earlier catch up and block her exit, laughing about how the little chick can certainly run fast. Realizing she is completely cornered, Si-yoon tries to make a desperate break for it, dashing down the corridor, while the gang of hunters laugh maniacally at her futile attempt. But these guys aren't just ordinary street thugs. They're awakeners. Suddenly, a blast of ice magic shoots out, instantly freezing her foot solid to the ground. The sudden momentum sends her crashing face first onto the hard pavement, knocking her backpack away. Her foot is completely shattered in ice as a glowing blue, frost-coated hand looms over her. The disgusting beanie thug stands over her, drooling like a psycho. He mockingly asks if she's all tuckered out, telling her to take a little breather and keep him entertained for a while. Just as the creepy stalker is about to lay his hands on her, Si-yoon screams out in panic. But before the creep can even touch her, a giant spectral paw slams directly into his face with insane force, sending him flying backward through the air and crashing brutally onto the pavement, which even surprises the white-haired leader. A heavy thud rattles the pavement. Stepping directly in front of a trembling Si-yoon is a colossal, majestic white lion. Si-yoon is shocked, staring at the majestic, glowing beast. Her eyes widen in pure disbelief as she realizes this legendary predator is none other than her little Leo. The beanie thug clutches his bleeding face, screaming in absolute horror. He frantically yells to his partner, crying about how the client who hired them never mentioned they'd have to fight a giant, overpowered monster lion. Leo lets out a deafening, earth-shaking roar that echoes throughout the entire alley. Completely terrified, the hooded stalker panics, frantically charging yellow lightning into his fists in a desperate, last-ditch effort to defend himself. But maintaining that massive, legendary form is way too exhausting for a baby cub. Right after his big, heroic entrance, Leo's energy runs out, and he immediately de-transforms, shrinking back down into his cute, tiny self before tumbling onto his back, completely dizzy. Seeing her fluffy little guardian instantly pass out from exhaustion, Si-yoon panics and immediately scoops her tiny champion up into her arms as she frantically checks to see if he is going to be okay after expending all his energy. Watching the legendary lion immediately shrink back into a helpless, dizzy baby, the white-haired leader looks on with utter disappointment. He scoffs, muttering that he actually thought the beast was going to be something special. With a cold snap of his fingers, he decides to end this game and reveals his own terrifying awakener power. Massive, thorny wooden roots violently rip right through the concrete floor, swarming the narrow alleyway as he sneers that the cub couldn't even maintain its form for 10 seconds. The giant, writhing vines swirl and coil around Si-yoon, trapping her in a thorny, living cage. Clutching a dazed Leo tightly to her chest, she desperately warns the man to stay back. But her warnings mean absolutely nothing to a seasoned killer. Coiling the sharp, thorny branches closer and closer to her face, the leader coldly tells her not to waste his time. He gives her a terrifying ultimatum. She can hand the beast over herself or he'll gladly tear it away from her corpse. Just as the leader is about to close his trap, Leo's eyes shine, and the legendary contract skill triggers. Stellar Warp. Consuming his mental control, a massive warp portal opens, and in a flash of pink light, Si-Chen teleports directly to Leo's location and delivers a devastating kick straight to the leader's face. The sheer kinetic force of the teleport strike sends the thug flying backward like a ragdoll, crashing brutally through the metal alleyway bins. Si-Chen calmly turns to his sister and apologizes for being late, casually explaining that his dungeon business took a bit longer than expected before asking if she and Leo are doing all right. The hooded thug is completely bewildered, wondering where this overpowered monster of a guy suddenly spawned from. Still deeply shaken, his sister frantically tries to explain the situation, warning him that she has no idea how they tracked her down and that they are all high-level awakeners. But Si-Chen just looks back with a reassuring smile, telling her to take a deep breath because her big brother is here now. Meanwhile, the leader emerges from the rubble. Seeing his plan get instantly disrupted, he snaps, furious at himself for letting his guard down for even a second. With thorny wooden roots coiling tightly around his body, he screams that Si-Chen has just made the biggest mistake of his life, vowing to bring their decapitated heads back to his client and demand triple the pay. But our boy doesn't even flinch. Clenching his fist as golden lightning begins to violently crackle around his knuckles, Si-Chen calmly tells his sister to get behind him and stay there, promising that this is not going to take long. Si-Chen recalls his childhood. One day he is getting absolutely pulverized in a dusty alleyway. Leading the beatdown is an orange-haired bully who also happens to be his cousin, screaming at him to finally learn his place. The thugs pin young Si-Chen to the dirty floor, intending to break his spirit. But the bullies didn't count on his sister. A young Si-Yun suddenly charges into the alleyway wielding a massive metal pipe, ordering the thugs to get their hands off her brother. The arrogant orange-haired cousin isn't intimidated at all, mockingly laughing at the idea of this tiny girl trying to play savior. Seeing the gang shift their focus to his sister, a panicked Si-Chen desperately screams at his cousin not to take a single step toward her. He desperately reminds the bully of his solemn promise never to lay a hand on Si-Yun. The smug cousin just laughs it off, openly admitting he lied. He proudly boasts that today is the day he finally beats some humility into his insufferable family members. But while the ringleader is busy monologuing, he makes a fatal mistake. Exploiting the distraction, young Si-Chen spots a heavy brick on the ground, grabs it, and violently smashes it directly into the face of the thug holding him down, shocking everyone. Young Si-Chen is furious. Raising his bloodied brick, he charges straight toward his cousin. The arrogant orange-haired ringleader's face instantly pales as he watches Si-Chen sprint at him with pure murderous intent. Si-Chen delivers a brutal brick smash directly to his cousin's face for breaking his word, sending him crashing heavily onto the concrete pavement. Bleeding and crying on the floor, the defeated cousin shrieks in terror, calling Si-Chen a complete and total psychopath. Catching his breath, young Si-Chen drops his weapon and gently tells a trembling Si-Yun that everything is okay, and she doesn't need to be afraid. In the present, Si-Chen instructs Si-Yun to stay tucked safely out of harm's way, and calmly assures his sister that he will wrap this up in no time. Refusing to let their prey escape, the stalkers charge straight at him, ready to cut him down. Clutching little Leo, Si-Yun panics. She frantically warns him that he's facing 3 highly dangerous, unhinged awakeners, convinced there's absolutely no way her brother can fight all of them simultaneously. The hooded thug charges in, winding up a massive, lightning-infused fist. He screams at Si-Chen, mocking him for just standing there and making no effort to defend himself. But before the guy can even register what's happening, Si-Chen counters with a single, devastating punch that sends him flying headfirst into the concrete wall. Watching her brother effortlessly fold a high-level awakener with one hand, Si-Yun's jaw completely drops. Right on cue, the bleeding beanie thug leaps, desperately lunging with his glowing elemental dagger. Without even breaking a sweat, Si-Chen cleanly catches the thug's wrist mid-air before delivering a brutal knee strike straight to his face. The sheer kinetic force of the strike launches the beanie thug backward, leaving him crumpled in the alleyway garbage bins. Instantly, a massive thorny wooden root rips through the alley toward him, but with insane reaction speed, Si-Chen effortlessly tilts his head to evade the surprise attack. The heavy vine misses entirely, snapping violently against the tiled brick wall behind him. Seeing his subordinates easily taken out, the white-haired leader completely loses his mind, screaming in fury that a mere kid in a school uniform is making a mockery of them. Channeling his plant magic, the boss summons a swarm of massive, glowing wooden spikes, furiously vowing to turn Si-Chen into a human pincushion. Si-Chen remains calm, and tapping into his godlike agility, he seamlessly slips and weaves through the incoming storm of razor-sharp vines without getting a single scratch. In a single fluid motion, Si-Chen launches himself straight through a gap in the defenses, closing the distance instantly. The white-haired boss is horrified, screaming that this shouldn't be possible and panicking over how anyone could move like that. Watching him dominate, Si-Yun suddenly has a realization. She nearly forgot that her brother didn't just barely scrape by his graduation combat exam, he completely and utterly destroyed the competition. Si Chen winds up his fist and delivers a punch straight to the leader's jaw, showing the gang that he operates on a completely different dimension of power. The sheer impact launches the boss backward like a missile, sending him crashing brutally into the alleyway wall. And just like that, the white-haired boss is out cold, bleeding and utterly defeated on the pavement. Over in the trash bins, the beanie thug remains completely unresponsive. Beside him, the hooded thug is slumped against the wall, thoroughly unconscious. The entire threat has been completely dismantled in under a minute. Casually dusting off his clothes, Si Chen turns to his sister and instructs her to take little Leo and head straight back home where it's safe. He reassures her with a smile, promising that he will quickly dump these clowns off at the local guard station and meet her back at the apartment before she knows it. Still a little dazed by the sheer spectacle but feeling completely safe, Si-yun tightly clutches her fluffy cub and happily agrees to head home first. Several hours later, under the dim light of a crescent moon, the severely beaten white-haired leader slowly begins to drift back into consciousness. Groaning in pain, the battered boss struggles to open his blood-caked eyes. But his confusion quickly turns to dread. He realizes that he and his two thugs have been stripped of their weapons and bound tightly back-to-back around a concrete pillar, with Si Chen staring directly down at them. The leader immediately panics, hysterically demanding to know where they are and why they were dragged to this isolated spot, while the beanie thug whimpers that his shattered skull literally feels like it's cracking in half. Remaining completely unfazed by their whimpering, Si Chen coldly asks if they belong to the Black Mountain Society. Knowing they never lift a finger without getting paid first, he directly demands to know who is bankrolling their operation to kidnap his sister. The battered boss just chuckles bloodily, refusing to talk. He arrogantly explains that snitching is a death sentence in their line of work, so he has no intention of opening his mouth. Si Chen doesn't even bat an eye. Recognizing that they want to play tough, he calmly sighs, deciding they can do this the hard way. Suddenly, a dark, swirling energy wraps around him as his system initiates a class switch. The system confirms the switch is complete, revealing Si Chen's terrifying level 25 Phantom Sorcerer class. Armed with dark psychic manipulation spells like Soul Rest Enigma and Ripple Hell, he's about to show these mercenaries a level of mental torture they won't ever forget. Interrogating his captives, Si Chen wastes no time and activates his newly acquired Phantom Sorcerer magic to force his way into the white-haired leader's mind. Under the weight of the hypnosis spell, the mercenaries' mental defenses begin to fracture. Before anyone can process the shift, a thorny root erupts from the concrete right next to them. Terrified, the beanie-wearing thug screams in panic, demanding to know what is happening to his boss. Unmoved by their cries, Si Chen unleashes Soul Rest Enigma and targets the legs first. In a flash, a sharp vine pierces cleanly through the leader's thigh, painting the floor red. Si Chen then calmly marks the hands as his next target. Another thorny branch thrusts upward, impaling the mercenary's palm to ensure he can never threaten anyone again, making it clear that this agony is exactly what they deserve for ever daring to lay their hands on his sister. Witnessing his partner get dismantled so easily, the beanie-wearing thug loses what little courage he has left, screaming in terror at the power standing before him. With a cold gaze, Si Chen declares that it is finally the survivor's turn, and the surrounding wooden roots coil closer, ready to repeat the torture. The threat breaks the mercenary instantly. Sobbing and begging for mercy, he confesses everything, blabbing that the mastermind behind the kidnapping is the son of the first hospital's director. Desperate to save his own skin, the thug yells out the client's name, Jin Duoxin. At 5 o'clock that evening, at a lavish rooftop pool party atop the Purple Peak Tower, Jin Duoxin is lounging, unaware that his hired thugs have already sold him out. His wealthy friends start teasing him, laughing about how the legendary campus heartthrob was rejected twice by a single junior schoolgirl. Jin Duoxin fumes in silence, swearing that she made a fool of him in front of everyone, and promises himself that she will regret every second of it tonight. Annoyed by the constant mocking, he snaps at a girl trying to follow him and storms off toward the restroom to clear his head. While he is at the urinal, the restroom lights begin to flicker and buzz, instantly catching his attention. Growling in frustration, he curses his luck, complaining that even the building's electricity is plotting against him tonight. Suddenly, a shadow looms. Jin Duoxin spins around to find Si Chen standing behind him. Our boy calmly demands to know if he is indeed Jin Duoxin. Down in the surveillance room, the security guards gossip about how the rich kids bought out the top floor and shut off all the security cameras so they could party in private. One of the guards leans in, whispering a dark rumor that many of the girls up there did not come willingly, having been lured into a trap. Shocked by the revelation, the other guard can barely believe his ears. The informant confirms it, explaining that not long ago, a student took her own life after being abused at one of these parties, only for the wealthy parents to bury the scandal under a mountain of hush money. He warns his colleague never to be fooled by their expensive clothes and pretty faces because behind closed doors, these spoiled heirs are nothing but animals. Meanwhile, back in the restroom, Jin Duoxin panics and demands to know who this intruder is, threatening to call the police and have him thrown out immediately. Instead of replying, Si Chen calmly pulls out a phone and makes a call. Jin Duoxin freezes in terror as he sees his own phone ringing with an incoming call from his mercenary contact, Blackie. Holding the mercenary's phone, Si Chen glares at him, confirming that Jin Duoxin is indeed the one who ordered the hit on his sister. Horrified, Jin Duoxin demands to know what happened to Blackie, but his answer comes in the form of Si Chen effortlessly crushing the phone to pieces with crackling lightning. Overcome with terror, the spoiled heir backs away, screaming for the monster in front of him to stay back and desperately begging to know who he is dealing with. In an instant, Si Chen launches Jin Duoxin straight through the glass window of the restroom. Shattered shards rain down as the spoiled heir plunges to the pool deck below. Bleeding and bruised on the hard floor, Jin Duoxin frantically shrieks for help, begging anyone to save him. He looks toward the pool, only to find a chilling sight. Every single one of his party guests is already floating face down or slumped over unconscious. Si Chen steps out onto the deck, enveloped in a dark, ominous aura. Desperate to escape, Jin Duoxin crawls backward on his hands and knees, cursing in panic. Glaring up at the glowing eyes of his pursuer, he screams, demanding to know who he is, what he did to deserve this, and why he is being hunted. He tries to play his final card, loudly boasting about his father's high status as the director of the first hospital. He shrieks that if Si Chen lays a single finger on him, his father will use all his power and influence to have him buried. Tired of the empty threats, Si Chen orders Jin Duoxin to shut his mouth, instantly seizing control of the heir's mind with his hypnosis spell. Under the spell's influence, Jin Duoxin collapses to his knees. Si Chen looks down at his puppet and coldly commands him to pick up a sharp piece of the shattered glass. Jin Duoxin's hand automatically reaches down, gripping the sharp glass shard. It becomes clear that pure evil does not only hide inside dungeons. Instead, it walks among ordinary humans every single day. Jin Duoxin and his friends committed unspeakable crimes against a helpless student. These spoiled brats use their endless wealth to cover up their crimes, driving the poor girl to take her own life in despair. When the tragedy occurred, they simply used their family's power and influence to ensure that none of the blame ever stuck to them. Jin Duoxin had even forged the autopsy report to frame it as a tragic accident, boasting that the world belongs to those with money. This is the exact monster who paid a fortune to the mercenaries, ordering them to ruin Si Yun's life by any means necessary. But this time, Jin Duoxin made the fatal mistake of targeting the wrong person's sister. Gripping the razor-sharp shard under hypnotic control, he slowly raises the glass to his own throat. Si Chen vows to hunt down and eliminate every threat to his sister, even if it means acting as judge, jury, and executioner. Even if he has to walk through the darkest depths of the world, he will never hesitate. Si Chen then orders his puppet to end it. Right after their brutal tiebreaker battle inside the wild dungeon, a victorious Si Chen stands over his injured rival, Gong Ting. He calmly tells him that the dungeon overlord is dead and the exit is clear, urging him to hold on until the rescue team arrives. Gong Ting makes a promise, telling Si Chen that as soon as they get out, he will tell everyone the truth, that Si Chen was the one who saved all their lives. However, there is no time to celebrate. Si Chen's senses suddenly tingle, and through his mental link with his beast, Leo, he sees a terrifying sight. The creepy mercenary Blackie is closing in on his sister, Si Yun. Realizing she is in danger, Si Chen quickly activates his Stellar Tamer skill, Stellar Warp, using up his mental energy to teleport and instantly disappear from the cave. Gong Ting is left staring at the empty space in shock. He realizes that Si Chen isn't just a dual-class user, but is actually running multiple classes at once, making him wonder how many more secrets his rival is hiding. Shortly after, heavy footsteps echo through the tunnels as Director Gong Xuan bursts into the cave with emergency medics, frantically ordering them to save the students. The rescue team quickly rushes into the crater to reach Gong Ting. While they use healing magic to stop his heavy bleeding, Gong Xuan steps up to check on his condition. Looking at his badly injured student, Gong Xuan notes with sweat on his brow that the dungeon boss had terrifying B-rank power, telling Gong Ting that surviving a fight with such a monster is a total miracle. Meanwhile, other medics tend to the survivors, confirming that Sato Woda is stable and purified. Though physically safe, a traumatized Jasmine can only mutter in a daze about the mental nightmares she just survived. Gong Xuan then notices that Si Chen is missing. When the search teams find no sign of him, the director assumes the boy got scared and ran away, ordering his men to search the area. Furious, Gong Xuan blames the entire disaster on the incompetence of the inspection agency. He angrily declares that Gong Ting's injuries are their fault and promises to have every single inspector fired as soon as they return. On the other hand, Gong Ting's clever father, Gong Lin, looks at the bloody scene and smirks. He immediately starts spinning a fake story, framing the event as a tragic beast outbreak that the examiners simply couldn't handle. Gong Lin plans to tell the world that his heroic son stepped up to save everyone when all hope was lost. Guilt-ridden by this stolen credit, Gong Ting tries to speak up and admit that Si Chen was the one who actually killed the boss. However, his father cuts him off instantly by squeezing his freshly bandaged shoulder wound, causing him intense pain. He whispers a threat, telling Gong Ting that he will take the credit, while the nearby witnesses stay quiet out of fear. He coldly orders his son to clean up, stating that tomorrow's graduation ceremony is where Gong Ting will step into the spotlight as the school's greatest hero. Later that evening in their rental apartment, the mood is much happier. Over a hot meal, Jutong excitedly congratulates Si-yun for passing her exam and getting accepted into the prestigious Central International Academy of Arts. Jutong is thrilled for her best friend, cheering that Si-yun is finally chasing her dreams and is on her way to becoming a world-class artist. Meanwhile, Si Chen casually drinks his soda with a calm, deadpan expression. Noticing his lack of excitement, a pouting Si-yun asks why he looks so bored, as if he already knew she would pass. Si Chen quickly smiles and assures her that he is truly happy for her, though in reality he remembers that in his past life she had received her acceptance letter on this exact same day. Jutong admits she is highly jealous because studying in the elite city of Sanhaven is a rare opportunity that regular people can only dream of. However, Si-yun worries about how far away Sanhaven is and its high cost of living. Seeing her hesitate, Si Chen steps in and tells her to completely forget about money or any other worries. Placing his soda bottle on the table, he calmly announces that as soon as he graduates, he will be working in Sanhaven right alongside her. This news completely shocks both girls. They jump up, demanding to know how he got recruited by a Sanhaven guild, since those elite groups only hire the absolute best. Happy about the news, Si-yun cheers because they can move to Sanhaven together, while Jutong complains about her jealousy, joking that she will have to study hard to join them later. Watching his sister celebrate, Si Chen smiles warmly and makes a silent promise that, in this lifetime, she will never have to sacrifice her dreams for anyone again. Later that night, Si Chen takes a quiet shower to wash away the day's exhaustion. He thinks about his victories. His sister's stalkers are gone, and the stressful graduation exam is finally over. Best of all, his secret deal with Gong Ting is working perfectly. By letting his rival take the credit, Si Chen will receive the $1 million prize tomorrow, which is exactly what he needs to clear his family's debts. Relaxing in his room, he knows he cannot get comfortable yet. He thinks about the Demon King, Wrath, realizing that if the Overlord was sealed upon entering the human world, the timeline has completely changed. His original 3-year timeline before the apocalypse is now highly uncertain. If he knew where the seal was, he would break it himself to end the threat early, making finding Wrath his top priority so he can get to Sanhaven quickly. But before fighting a Demon King, Si Chen knows he needs a strong ally he can trust. Fortunately, tomorrow's graduation ceremony is the perfect place to recruit the exact person he needs. Meanwhile, in a quiet tea room, Student Council Vice President Ling Yu meets with Carl Cavendish, the Vice Chairman of the World Guild Alliance. She reports that a dangerous rogue awakener called the Glutton was spotted in Everfield County, which immediately catches Carl's interest. Ling Yu explains that she rushed to the scene but found the security cameras cleared. The only clues left behind were fresh bloodstains and scratch marks on the ground, matching the killer's usual routine of destroying and consuming victims. She warns Carl that this killer specifically targets elite awakeners with rare, powerful abilities, and the rank of the victims has been rising with every attack. This means the killer is stealing their strength and evolving rapidly by devouring increasingly powerful targets. Ling Yu warns that the glutton never stops once he targets an area, and she feels another attack is coming. Carl simply smirks, finding the timing of the monster's arrival interesting. Sliding a new file across the table, Ling Yu adds that the glutton's most recent attack took place in an alleyway within a low-income housing neighborhood. Remarkably, the exact location of the murder is less than 100 meters away from Si Chen's apartment. Although they have no photos of the glutton, Ling Yu notes that Si Chen's power has been growing at an impossibly fast rate. But before she can finish speaking, Carl smirks, suggesting that the power-devouring glutton is actually Si Chen himself. At the academy, Principal Yuan Long's assistant asks why he is skipping the graduation ceremony for the very students he helped raise. Wenlong smiles and explains that he only wanted to give his students a safe place to grow when they were weak, but now they have finally grown up. With that, he releases his birds out the window, saying it is time for them to go out and find their own paths in life. However, he notices one stubborn bird staying behind in the cage, making him wonder where it actually wants to go. Over at the massive graduation hall, Ma Long and Xiang Zuo stare in awe at the huge venue, realizing the academy went all out to welcome the major guild leaders. Ma Long wonders how Si Chen and Gong Ting did in their secret trial, and while the twins discuss the academy's strict rules, Ma Long proudly brags that Lu Sheng definitely crushed the competition. But suddenly, Gong Ting's brother, Gong Chung, tells Ma Long to shut up and stop hyping up Si Chen. He laughs and claims that Si Chen has zero chance of winning, insisting that his brother Gong Ting is guaranteed to walk away as the champion. Annoyed by his arrogance, the group starts trading thumbs down and petty insults back and forth. Behind the scenes of the grand ceremony, Gong Lin looks around and notes that every major guild in the country has sent a representative. Since the entire board of the prestigious Imperial Guild is attending, the crowd outside is already buzzing with excitement to see these legendary figures. Soon enough, Imperial Guild co-founder Guam Yuan and founder Titan Ming make a grand entrance to greet the elite guests, prompting Gong Lin to quietly scheme for the upcoming board election. He plans to use this very ceremony to win over the undecided board members and break his dead-even vote tie. By doing this, Gong Lin is determined to finally seize the highly coveted chairman's seat for himself. He assures his son Gong Ting that Carl, the vice chairman of the World Guild Alliance, will personally hand him the champion's trophy, marking the start of their rise to the absolute top. However, he firmly warns Gong Ting not to screw this up, ordering him to go out there, give a perfect speech, and show the world what he is made of. Feeling suffocated by his father's intense pressure, Gong Ting remains silent while clenching his fist so tightly that his suit wrinkles. Right on cue, the host steps onto the main stage to kick off the highly anticipated 2157th National Awakener University graduation ceremony. As she announces that the final assessment is officially over, Ma Long and the twins in the crowd instantly light up with excitement. Now that all the powerful board members and school officials are seated, the historic ceremony officially begins. The entire auditorium erupts into loud applause, but while Gong Ting sits in tense silence, Si Chen calmly watches the show unfold. Next, the announcer takes the stage to officially reveal the results of this year's grueling assessment. She points dramatically to the gleaming gold trophy waiting on stage for the ultimate champion. She then introduces the special guest presenter, inviting Carl Cavendish, the vice chairman of the Global Guild Alliance, to step forward. Under the bright spotlights and loud applause, Carl steps up, ready to personally announce the winner of the grand award. He starts by thanking the Imperial Guild for the invitation, saying it is an honor to witness Easternia's next generation of elite talent. Then, he quickly grabs everyone's attention by hinting that something highly unexpected happened during the final test, catching Ma Long and the twins completely off guard. He drops a massive bombshell, revealing that the low-level D-rank dungeon assigned for the exam was actually a highly dangerous disguised B-rank dungeon. This shocking news sends a wave of panic through the crowd, with people whispering that even professional teams struggle with B-rank threats, wondering how on earth the students survived. Carl goes on to explain that when all hope seemed lost, one heroic student used sheer skill and flawless technique to pull off the absolute impossible. He reveals that this lone warrior single-handedly defeated the B-rank dungeon boss and brought his entire team back alive. As a calm Si Chen and Gong Ting listen from the crowd, Carl gets ready to name the strongest graduate of their generation. He raises his arm and officially crowns Gong Ting as the undisputed champion of the year. Confetti rains down as a serious Gong Ting stands up to accept the crowd's roaring applause. Meanwhile, Ma Long and Xiang Zuo are completely losing their minds, absolutely convinced that the results must have been rigged for Si Chen to lose. Seeing this, Gong Chung immediately starts gloating, rubbing the victory in their faces and bragging that his brother is simply built different. The surrounding students are left in awe, murmuring that clearing a B-rank dungeon alone is on an entirely different level compared to their own struggles. The crowd continues to go wild, showering Gong Ting with praises for his legendary strength and looks. As Gong Ting slowly climbs the stage stairs, a calm Si Chen silently watches him from his seat. Looking back, Gong Ting instantly remembers their secret deal in the dark cave, where Si Chen offered him first place in exchange for the entire $1 million prize money. He vividly recalls Si Chen's only condition, which was to never tell anyone about his hidden demonic class transformation. Back in the present, Si Chen watches quietly, curious to see how his rival will handle the stolen spotlight. But as he stands before the massive crowd, Gong Ting is haunted by his father's harsh warning to give a perfect speech and show everyone his true worth. The announcer then warmly welcomes Gong Ting to the microphone to deliver his champion's speech. The crowd instantly falls in love with him, praising his calm and dignified look, calling him a true hero in the making. They whisper that he is a worthy heir to the prestigious Gong family with a limitless future, which makes a proud Gong Lin smile in approval. Looking down at his notes, he bitterly questions if this stolen glory is all his worth really amounts to. He begins by acknowledging that the vice chairman was absolutely right about the heroic feats of surviving a hopeless fight, saving the team, and defeating the boss. But then he drops a shocker and reveals the truth. None of those legendary deeds were his, because it was actually all Si Chen. This sudden confession catches everyone off guard, leaving both Si Chen and Carl completely speechless. Hearing this, Gong Lin loses his mind, fuming with rage as he watches his son throw away their family's carefully crafted glory. Meanwhile, Gongcheng panics and shouts in disbelief at his brother's decision while the nearby students whisper in confusion. Gongting continues, explaining that the exam went completely wrong, the examiners were knocked out, and only he and Si Chen remained to face the threat. He praises Si Chen as a brilliant lightning assassin, a prodigy who defeated waves of high-level beasts using nothing but pure skill and instinct. Watching his rival fight showed him what true strength looks like, admitting he had never seen that level of power before. He named Si Chen the rightful champion, making our hero glad that his rival kept his secret demonic double-class safe. Panic quickly erupts in the arena as the crowd questions the Academy's integrity, wondering if the official results were rigged from the start. However, instead of getting angry, Carl simply smirks, highly amused by this dramatic turn of events. Seizing the moment, Ma Long and Shang Zuo demand a full investigation, convinced the exam was rigged to hold their friend back. At the same time, the guild founders sit in silence, processing this sudden disruption to their carefully planned event. Guam Yuan immediately demands answers from Gong Lin, stating that the public deserves a clear explanation for this mess. But refusing to face this public humiliation, Gong Lin scoffs and storms out of the ceremony, leaving the confusion behind. Standing alone on the stage, Gong Ting tears up his prepared speech, determined to stop letting his father dictate his life. Back in his office, Principal Yuan Long watches his final bird fly away, which mirrors Gong Ting's choice to finally take control of his own path. Watching the bird soar freely, the principal smiles, happy that his student has finally found his own direction. Gong Ting then concedes this round to Si Chen with a competitive smirk, promising that next time he will be the one on top. To understand what happens next, we learn that the global network of thousands of guilds is divided into 5 tiers, from peak down to standard. While peak guilds are the absolute best, elite guilds are the realistic limit for strong awakeners, with only 12 existing globally, including the Imperial Guild. Over on the recruitment floor, standard graduates are practically begging recruiters to take a look at their resumes. Unfortunately, the Divine Eye Guild immediately shuts them down, saying they aren't hiring support classes this year and telling them to leave. In this tough job market, average graduates struggle to get a single offer, but everything changes if you get invited to an elite guild. Soon after, the Imperial Guild's HR manager, Charlson, hands an employment certificate to Ma Long, welcoming him to their prestigious ranks. The twins, Xiangzhou and Xiangyu, celebrate their spots in the research division, while a terrified Ma Long panics over his assignment to the combat unit. Stepping inside the massive headquarters, the group can barely contain their excitement about joining one of the 12 elite guilds in the world. Nearby, other classmates watch in bitter regret, kicking themselves for refusing to join Si Chen's squad when they had the chance. Even Gongcheng fumes with anger, dreading the fact that he will have to see these exact same people at work every single day. Meanwhile, in the executive elevator, Titan Ming asks about recruitment progress, learning that the double perfect scores expanded their intake this year. When the elevator doors slide open to reveal Carl, Titan Ming greets the vice chairman warmly and asks if he is visiting recruitment too. Carl reveals he came to personally see someone off, making Titan Ming realize that the alliance leader is keeping a close eye on their new recruit. Carl chuckles, admitting that the Imperial Guild secured an exceptional talent and got really lucky this season. Back at the registration desks, Charlson checks his database and notices that one final candidate has not submitted his paperwork yet. Annoyed, the manager calls out Ma Long, demanding to know why their star rookie, Si Chen, is wasting everyone's time and delaying the process. Realizing his leader is indeed missing, Ma Long frantically scans the crowded room and calls out for his friend in a panic. Just then, Si Chen casually strolls back from a bathroom break, only to get yelled at by his anxious teammates for wandering off now. Seeing this delay, Charlson grumbles about the arrogance of rookies who already think they can play hard to get. The recruiter reminds the young graduate that even the top scorer must follow the rules, urging him to hurry up and sign with them. With zero hesitation, Si Chen calmly announces that he has no intention of joining the Imperial Guild, sending his teammates into a total panic. This sudden rejection sends shockwaves through the room, leaving his arrogant classmate Gongcheng completely speechless. The rest of the hall erupts in whispers as everyone wonders why any sane awakener would reject this offer, surprising even the top guild leaders. Slamming his desk in fury, Charlson yells that they prepared a prestigious senior position for him, an opportunity veterans would die for. However, Si Chen reminds the manager that he never actually agreed to join, leaving the recruiter fuming and demanding to know why he is here. Seeing the commotion, Carl Cavendish steps forward, finding the timing absolutely perfect as the crowd recognizes the legendary leader. The surrounding graduates quickly bow, wondering what could bring the World Alliance's vice chairman all the way to a registration hall. Carl goes straight to Si-chen, offering him an alternative to the Imperial Guild and asking if he wants to move to Sanhaven with him. He even offers to personally nominate Si-chen for the Ember Star Knights, shocking both Gongting and Titan Ming. Instantly, the hall erupts in whispers at the mention of the Ember Star Knights, a name usually reserved for major global headlines. The graduates whisper that there are only 6 peak guilds globally, rumored to have enough power to level an entire nation if they wanted to. On top of that, these god-tier groups never recruit publicly, relying solely on private invitations and personal referrals. Yet, unmoved by this amazing offer, Si-chen politely declines, explaining he is actually there to recruit teammates for his own organization. Hearing this, Ma Long and the twins freeze in shock, realizing their friend has somehow already founded his own group. Snatching his card away, Charleston mocks the idea of a rookie running a startup, reading the name Black Raven Guild aloud with a sneer. He yells that registering a new guild is strictly restricted, expensive, and requires a formal referral that a rookie graduate could never get anyway. The manager scoffs, demanding to know how a kid fresh out of school with zero backing could have possibly pulled off such a feat. However, the reception desk quickly chimes in, confirming that the database lists the Black Raven Guild as a legitimate organization, freezing Charleston in shock. The database confirms the guild was registered on May 18th, approved on June 18th, and lists Si-chen as its legal representative. Hearing the registration date, Gongting does some quick math in his head and is taken aback by the timeline. He realizes that Si-chen was already setting up his own organization a full month before their final graduation exam even started. Suddenly, everything clicks. Si-chen only cared about winning the prize money to fund his startup, not because he wanted the glory of first place. From the very beginning, the Imperial Guild was never on Si-chen's radar, as his focus was entirely on launching his own group. Looking at the calm graduate, the recruiters realize that Si-chen never sought their approval, as he operates on a completely different level. Carl chuckles to himself, noting that Si-chen and his sister really are cut from the same cloth, sharing a fiercely independent streak. Si-chen then reminds everyone that a guild needs at least 2 members to run dungeons, pointing out his group currently only has him. Turning straight to his rival, Si-chen holds out a recruitment card and invites Gongting to be his very first member in the Black Raven Guild. Just a week before graduation, Si-chen met with Qing-Zhi at the Mithril Exchange to share 2 important updates. First, he asked for a 1-week extension on his debt because tying for first place in his exams meant he missed out on the full cash prize, leaving him 500,000 short. However, this money problem was nothing compared to his second update, which was much more serious. He revealed that he had actually traveled back in time from 10 years in the future, explaining that a group of powerful demon kings would eventually destroy the world, leaving him as the only surviving hero. Si-chen then described how the apocalypse began, explaining how the first demon king, Wrath, used destructive energy waves to tear the earth apart. He went on to explain that a brilliant inventor named Qing-Zhi stepped up to save humanity by creating and donating a special defensive tool called the Stillstone. Thanks to this invention, humanity managed to survive Wrath's deadly waves, buying survivors enough time to gather their strength and fight back. Hearing this, Qing-Zhi stood up in pure shock, because while the Stillstone was designed to block wave magic, the device was currently just an unshared idea in his own head, proving that Si-chen was telling the truth. Si-chen immediately invited Qing-Zhi to join his team and work for him. On June 26th, after receiving the full debt payment, Qing-Zhi happily returned Si-chen's weapon to him inside the Mithril Exchange archive room. To cover the interest, Si-chen also pulls a pouch of rare materials from his inventory and drops premium loot like poison cage ant legs, mantis spikes, and a rare snake gall onto the table. Qing-Zhi is thrilled with the high-quality haul and praises his partner, but Si-chen casually brushes it off, explaining he was in a hurry and could only grab those few items. Qing-Zhi then asks how recruitment is going for the new Black Raven Guild, and Si-chen admits his top candidate rejected the offer. This news surprises Qing-Zhi, who assumes this setback will delay Si-chen's planned relocation to the elite city of Sanhaven. However, Si-chen reveals he is actually speeding up his timeline, explaining that his original plan to save the world had 3 phases. The first phase was simple: build a standard rookie guild from scratch with a small team. The second phase involved leveling up the guild to gold status to get permission to challenge S-rank dungeons. Finally, he planned to go to Sanhaven, find the dungeon holding the Demon King of Wrath, and defeat him early. But recent events have ruined his calculations, and Si-chen warns that Wrath may have already appeared much sooner than in his past life. Therefore, he must reach Sanhaven immediately and recruit teammates after arriving, leaving Qing-Zhi amazed at how complex the situation is becoming. Wanting to help, Qing-Zhi reaches into his pocket and presents a small digital music player, hoping his quick preparation can turn the tide. He explains that he had a producer friend create a catchy pop song encoded with a specific beta frequency and even secured a partnership with global superstar Michael Bruno. The plan is for the pop star to release the track as a lead single, spreading the frequency worldwide in less than a week. He explains that since this frequency can neutralize Wrath's mind-controlling ripples, broadcasting the song is their most efficient defense system on short notice. Si Chen is amazed that his partner set up a global defense in just 7 days, while Qing Ji simply adjusts his glasses, proud to help prevent the apocalypse. Before Si Chen can even process this massive achievement, Qing Ji reveals yet another surprise. Using his storage ring, Qing Ji projects a custom smartwatch onto Si Chen's wrist, explaining he built it to track S-rank threats and their past locations. He proudly explains that this unique prototype will be the ultimate tool for hunting down Wrath before the invasion begins. Si Chen is surprised that the radar outperforms his own system, realizing his new partner is a genius who built a revolutionary tracking device in 1 week. Qing Ji admits he wishes he had the combat power of an awakener to fight on the battlefield directly. Si Chen quickly reassures him, saying his technological help is already invaluable and promising to handle the combat himself. Still, Si Chen remains on high alert, knowing Wrath is just the vanguard of the invasion, and resolves to gather more intel on the Demon King. Later that evening, inside a rainy hospital, the spoiled heir Jin Duoxin is locked in a padded cell as a drooling mess from Si Chen's hypnosis, while his furious father, Ronald Jin, watches. The angry old man demands to know who dared to break his family's pride and ruin his son. He then orders a squad of elite, top-tier A-rank awakeners to hunt down the culprit by any means necessary and make them pay. Accepting the job, the lead assassin reveals a glowing energy blade hidden in his umbrella, confidently promising to deliver the culprit's head today. Suddenly, a heavy pressure rattles the room, forcing the director to his knees as he vomits in pain. As heavy footsteps vibrate through the floor, the elite mercenaries instantly sense a powerful presence heading straight toward them. When the monster approaches the door, the hunters ready their elemental powers and firearms, bracing for a fight. Suddenly the demon appears directly inside the room, grinning as it announces it is time to feed, revealing itself as Voraloon, the demon king of gluttony. Awakener powers are split into 5 core classes, starting with the warrior, who is built to lead the charge and take heavy damage on the front lines. Next is the assassin class, which relies on speed to flank enemies and finish off targets quickly. Then there is the mage, who specializes in controlling the battlefield and dealing heavy magic damage from a safe distance. Supporting these fighters is the chanter class, which keeps the party alive by removing negative status effects and boosting everyone's stats. However, there is a 5th core class that stands completely on its own, operating under a unique philosophy. This offensive class completely abandons defense, trading personal safety for the highest raw destructive power in the entire system. Si Chen lands in the volcanic depths of the 2nd floor, ready to face the Dreadspire Overlord, a monster wielding the destructive power of the Archer class. As he dodges plasma beams in the volcanic cavern, Si Chen tracks the trajectory of the last shot to find the sniper's hiding spot. He realizes that although the boss's ranged attacks are incredibly powerful, it has to recharge between shots, giving him a brief window to strike right before a tail rustles in the distance. Seizing his chance, Si Chen charges in with his lightning dagger ready for a quick, decisive strike to end the monster, but he realizes too late that it is a trap. Suddenly, the monster fires a beam of light that causes a massive explosion, and Si Chen jolts awake in his bed, gasping for air as he returns from the Void Tower. Still shaken, he cannot help but curse the sneaky monster. Stretching after a long night, Siyun finds her brother slumped on the couch looking like a zombie, while the little cub, Leo, sleeps on his chest. She asks if he got any sleep at all, and Si Chen admits he spent the night hunting and ran into some serious trouble. When she asks what exactly he was hunting, he quickly brushes the question aside and tells her to forget about it. Instead, he shifts the topic to their upcoming move, sharing his plan to head to Sandhaven in a few days, right after they perform next week's memorial rites for their parents. Siyun wonders why he needs to leave so early, but he explains that he wants to arrive ahead of her to get their new home set up. Deep down, however, he knows he must speed up his plans to stay ahead of the looming apocalypse. Seeing his sister happily cuddling the cub, he feels relieved knowing Leo will be there to protect her, making their temporary separation much easier to bear. However, one dangerous flaw still weighs heavily on his mind. Under certain conditions, his psychic link with Leo disconnects. He recalls how his connection with the cub went completely silent the moment the gate slammed shut behind him in the deepest part of the wild dungeon. The mental link only returned after he successfully defeated the Overlord and forced the dungeon gates to reopen. This vulnerability chills him, especially when he reflects on how close he came to failing during his rescue of Si Yun. If his victory over the boss had been delayed by even half a minute, his sister and her companion would have been killed by the mercenaries. Before he sets off, Si Chen asks his sister if he can borrow Leo for his trip to Sandhaven. This sudden request catches both Si Yun and the little cub completely off guard. In this world, dungeons are rare and highly competitive commodities because clearing them yields extremely valuable resources. Because of this, the government auctions off the clearance rights for newly discovered dungeons, turning high-rank locations into multi-million-dollar bidding wars. Wealthy elite guilds quickly bid fortunes to monopolize all of these high-rank dungeons. While the major players snap up the best zones, the low-tier remnants are left for the public, forcing independent non-guild teams to fight over the leftovers. Inside one of these street-level offices, a minor party leader complains about barely winning a D-rank dungeon license, though his companion warns him to be grateful since they have not had work in months. Needing to fill out their roster, the leader sends his recruiter out into the streets to hire a warrior for their upcoming raid. Since government regulations strictly forbid entering dungeons with fewer than 2 people, unaffiliated awakeners who fail to join proper guilds gather at local markets to form desperate temporary teams just to get by. At the market, a desperate E-rank nuclear chanter named Tanaka Daiki pitches his weapon-heating support skills to a potential team. However, the recruiter girl carrying the spiked bat immediately shoves him away, shouting that she only wants a warrior and has no use for a weak support class. Walking past the commotion, Si-chen realizes that the only way to ensure his sister's safety is to take Leo into a dungeon to gain combat experience and level up. Since his new guild does not have any dungeon rights yet and his private Dreamspire is far too dangerous for a young cub, he has to find a team in the public recruiting market. Wearing glasses and using a fake E-rank Stellar Tamer identity under the alias Ashton Lee, he registers alongside a hooded Leo, ready to blend in with the rookies and secure a spot in a party. Si-chen tries to keep a low profile by using a fake resume under the name Ashton Lee, claiming to be a weak E-rank Stellar Tamer. However, the registration supervisor, Gideon Lee, is surprised to see a tamer, calling the class a useless relic of the past. Gideon mockingly calls the disguised Leo a pathetic house cat that would freeze in a dungeon. This insult rages the tiny guardian, who snaps back with a fierce growl. Fed up with their attitude, Gideon kicks them out, claiming no decent party would ever waste a slot on such a weak team. Refusing to give up, Si-chen calms his angry cub and decides to look for a more open-minded squad. Unfortunately, the rest of the market is just as harsh. A muscular Vanguard recruiter scoffs at their resume, saying he needs strong meat shields who can take a hit, not an oversized rodent. Another recruiter dismisses them without a second thought, ordering Si-chen to leave before he wastes any more of her time. Even a pacifist monk rejects their application, explaining that he refuses to send an innocent animal to fight his battles. They get rejected everywhere, with recruiters accusing them of trying to leech experience and mocking Leo's small size. Heartbroken, poor Leo collapses on the floor in tears. Si-chen realizes that beast tamers are treated like garbage here. He wishes he had lied about his class and smuggled Leo into the raid under a different identity. Just as they hit rock bottom, a pink-haired girl runs past and suddenly scoops Leo into her arms, gushing over how adorable he is. Startled by the sudden hug, Leo bursts into tears and howls. While the confused girl wonders why the puppy is crying, Si-chen calmly explains that he is actually a baby lion. The girl apologizes, admitting she has never seen a legendary beast so small and cute, and hands Leo back to Si-chen. She then notices the resume card in Si-chen's hand. Reading the name Ashton Lee and his E-rank Stellar Tamer class, a sudden idea comes to her mind. She asks if he is looking for a dungeon party to level up his beast. When Si-chen nods, she introduces herself as Soleil Hei, a D-rank nuclear warrior, explaining she has a dungeon license but needs teammates. She warns him that the dungeon is a risky D-rank zone, asking if an E-rank rookie and his cub can handle a dangerous raid. Si-chen accepts immediately, knowing this is the perfect chance. Soon they drive to the edge of the city in Soleil's red off-roader. They arrive at a bleak dumping ground, where a dark sewage tunnel serves as the dungeon entrance. When they step out, Gideon is waiting by the entrance and instantly recognizes the rookie tamer and his house cat. Seeing this, Soleil asks if they already know each other. Gideon demands to know why Soleil brought a low-ranking tamer he personally rejected, especially since the kid has absolutely no team history. An assassin on the team tries to keep the peace, arguing that an extra member helps. Gideon just scoffs, muttering about carrying dead weight. Ignoring the drama, Soleil takes charge. She reminds everyone that even with 3 seasoned D-rank awakeners, this dungeon is uncharted territory, so they cannot afford any mistakes. She quickly assigns roles, putting herself and Gideon, a D-rank flower mage, on the front line. She then orders Nolan, an E-rank lightning assassin, to cover the flanks. Next, she instructs Chuck, their D-rank cloud warrior, to protect Holly, their E-rank chanter, in the backline. Finally, she tells Si-chen to stay safe and attack only when it is clear. Brushing off her warnings, Gideon boasts that the run will be easy since he has cleared over a dozen D-rank dungeons. With the plan set, Soleil gives the green light, and the team marches into the dark tunnel. They walk through the damp stone corridor until they spot a strange golden glow radiating from the floor ahead. They stop at the edge of a swirling portal of molten energy. Telling everyone to stick close, Soleil dives headfirst into the volcanic gateway, landing gracefully in the fiery depths below. She ignites her massive blade with flames, casting a bright light to guide the group through the pitch-black cavern. Gideon's face turns pale as he spots crackling yellow electric pods on the cave walls, realizing they have entered a lightning element dungeon. Soleil warns everyone to stay alert while Leo sniffs the air for hidden threats. Before anyone can react, a yellow streak of electricity shoots through the darkness and slams directly into Gideon's back. Sensing another attack, Soleil shouts a warning as a glowing, yellow-furred Volt rat leaps from the shadows. While Gideon panics, the captain steps in and slices the monster in half. She reminds Gideon of his earlier boasts about his dungeon experience, asking why he is losing his mind over a low-level monster. Gideon screams that nobody warned him this was a lightning dungeon. He explains that electrical attacks ruin his flower spells, making him useless against these fast pests. Suddenly, more Volt rats rain down on the party. Nolan uses his quick reflexes to dodge a beast that flies past his ear. Gideon cowers on his knees trying to protect his head and screaming at the pests. To protect her teammate, Soleil swings her axe to swat the rodents, wondering why there are so many of them. Seeing this, Chuck activates his skills to shield a trembling Holly. Deciding he has seen enough, Si-Chen quietly calls out to Leo, whose eyes glow with a menacing pink light as he prepares to show his true power. At the Gong family estate, Ling Yu checks on Gongcheng to see if his Imperial Guild onboarding is complete. He confirms everything is settled, but immediately complains that Si-Chen caused chaos at the registration hall by rejecting the prestigious Imperial Guild. Instead, the rookie boldly announced the creation of his own organization, the Black Raven Guild, leaving even Ling Yu surprised. Gongcheng scoffs at Si-Chen, calling him insane for trying to recruit his brother Gong Ting in front of everyone. Laughing off the offer, he insists Gong Ting would never join such a fledgling guild. Yet while Gongcheng dismisses it as madness, Ling Yu cannot shake the feeling that every move Si-Chen makes has a deeper purpose. Her thoughts drift back to a meeting several days earlier when Carl firmly rejected the theory that Si-Chen and the power-devouring monster known as the Glutton were the same person. His certainty leaves Ling Yu puzzled, prompting her to ask why he is so convinced. Carl explains that the Glutton always targets powerful awakeners to steal their strength. If Si-Chen truly were the creature, he argues, he would never have ignored the perfect opportunity at the graduation exam, where Gong Ting and numerous high-ranking awakeners were gathered. Ling Yu immediately challenges that reasoning. She argues that Si-Chen is simply too cautious to act under such intense scrutiny, knowing any incident during the exams would instantly place all suspicion on him. Although Carl understands her concerns, he refuses to change his conclusion, insisting the killer they seek is not the rookie champion. Instead, he advises her to judge people by their character rather than through constant suspicion, warning that distrust alone will only cloud her judgment. Back at her office, Ling Yu searches the official database for the Black Raven Guild. Discovering it was registered back in May proves Si-Chen had planned everything an entire month in advance, reinforcing her belief that nothing he does is ever spontaneous. The realization only deepens her suspicions. Someone as calculating as Si-Chen would never risk committing murder during a closely monitored public exam. Creating an independent guild offers the perfect cover, allowing him to organize private dungeon raids, lure unsuspecting awakeners into remote locations, and eliminate them without leaving evidence. Then an unsettling conclusion forms in her mind. Si-Chen's methods perfectly match the profile of a notorious predator known as a Portia. Among awakeners, a Portia is a ruthless hunter named after the spider that preys on its own kind. These killers blend effortlessly into raid parties, patiently manipulating their victims until the perfect moment arrives. Once their prey steps into the trap, the mask disappears, and they strike without hesitation. Cold, merciless, and completely devoid of empathy, they hunt fellow awakeners purely for the thrill. By now, Ling Yu is convinced Si-Chen fits that description better than anyone. Meanwhile, back inside the dungeon, the battle quickly spirals out of control as endless waves of Volt rats flood the battlefield. Gideon curls up in panic, desperately trying to shake the creatures off, while Soleil struggles to hold back the relentless electric assault. Chuck rushes to shield the frightened Holly, but amid the chaos, Si-Chen calmly decides the fight has gone on long enough. With a quiet signal, he orders Leo to reveal his true strength. Pink rings of energy instantly lock onto the flying rats. Activating the strangling star ring, Leo unleashes a deafening roar, and the trapped monsters explode one after another, illuminating the cavern in brilliant flashes and leaving the entire party speechless. As silence returns, Soleil, Chuck, and Holly stare in disbelief at the supposedly weak E-rank tamer. Gideon can only watch in horror as the hooded figure effortlessly wipes out an entire horde. Golden light soon surrounds the little cub as the system registers another rapid level up. Adjusting his glasses, Si-Chen calmly praises Leo for a job well done. Not long afterward, the party advances through the dungeon with surprising speed until they reach its deepest section, where two dark tunnels branch in opposite directions. Soleil admits their smooth progress is entirely thanks to Leo's exceptional crowd control, acknowledging they would have struggled badly without him. Chuck and Holly happily agree, showering the purring cub with praise and affectionate pats. Unable to accept being overshadowed, Gideon bitterly mutters that he would have performed even better in a stellar-type dungeon. Ignoring his jealousy, Soleil shifts her attention to the crossroads and asks which path they should take. Nolan confidently points toward the narrow tunnel on the right, explaining that low-rank overlords often hide in cramped spaces to mislead intruders. Drawing from experience, he assures the group the boss is waiting there. Trusting his judgment, Soleil leads everyone into the passage. She warns them that although the boss belongs to a D-rank dungeon, its attacks can rival those of a C-rank monster. The moment it appears, she orders everyone to unleash everything they have before it can recover. As they move forward, Si-Chen quietly activates his system, bringing up everyone's ranks and tier classifications. From the previous battle, he concludes that Leo displayed remarkable combat instincts and excellent teamwork. At this pace, clearing the dungeon should promote the cub to D rank exactly as planned. However, one detail immediately catches his attention. As his gaze settles on Nolan, the system displays nothing but a flashing question mark instead of a rank. Despite claiming to be an ordinary E-rank assassin, Nolan is clearly hiding far greater strength. Since Demon Heart cannot read the status of anyone at B rank or above, Si-Chen quickly realizes the truth. Just like him, Nolan has been concealing his real abilities all along. Soleil leads the group out of the cramped tunnel and into a giant echoing chamber buried deep inside the cave. The change is so sudden that even the tiny disguised cub is confused. The eerie silence makes Chuck Milo wonder out loud whether the dungeon overlord is even hiding in this sector. He gets his answer immediately, because a tiny spark of electricity forms right beside him and bursts into a shockwave that fries the warrior on the spot, leaving him smoking on the ground. Before the team can recover, a volley of giant lightning spheres rains down and targets all of them at once. Soleil holds the line with her axe, deflecting the elemental strikes while support magic buzzes to life behind her and stabilizes the squad. Then she looks up and finds their real opponent perched on a high ridge, the dungeon overlord itself, a C-rank lightning mage beast known as the Thousand Lantern Fox. The creature's appearance catches Soleil off guard, yet our boy Si-Chen stays calm and quietly reads its entire arsenal of area spells and crowd control. To him, a fight like this is not a threat at all, but a perfect training ground to level up his cub. The Overlord, however, wastes no time, and a rapid barrage of electrical spheres breaks through Soleil's guard and sends her crashing to the ground. As a massive bolt drops to finish her off, the little cub activates his telekinetic warp skill and yanks the captain aside, a heartbeat before the spot she stood on is vaporized. Angered by the interference, the beast turns on the cub instead and fires a giant electrical blast straight at Leo, swallowing the whole area in fire. But our boy is already a step ahead, and his stellar warp pulls Leo back to his side in the nick of time. With his companion safe, Si-Chen turns the near miss into a lesson, telling the cub that a true fighter always watches his surroundings and secures an escape route before unleashing his power. Cornered but still deadly, the Thousand Lantern Fox begins charging its ultimate magic, a high-tier spell called Thousand Falling Thunders. Seeing that, Gideon completely loses his composure and screams in despair, certain that the entire squad is about to be wiped out. But before the storm can fall, Nolan moves like a ghost. Flash Step closes the distance in an instant, and his blade punches clean through the beast's core. A strike so fast that even Si-Chen looks surprised. The Overlord collapses paralyzed, though its hovering spheres still float in the air. Studying what just happened, our boy notes that Nolan hit at the exact split second the boss was open, and a red like that does not belong to a rookie. Relieved to still be breathing, Gideon rushes forward to congratulate the rogue, praising the ambush and asking how he slipped behind the boss unnoticed. His praise quickly turns into suspicion though, and he demands to know how a supposed E-rank hunter could drop a C-rank overlord in a single blow, wondering out loud if Nolan lied about his rank. Then, seeing the weakened beast groan on the ground, he raises his chanter bell to steal the glory with the final blow. But before he can swing, a blade punches through his chest from behind, and the rest of the team freezes in shock. The attacker is Nolan, who lifts the dying mage off the ground with a sinister smile and admits that he likes taking his time to savor a kill. Watching the slaughter, a terrified Holly screams and bolts toward the dark escape tunnel. But Nolan has no intention of leaving witnesses alive, so he wraps his blade in a lightning orb and hurls it straight at the fleeing chanter's back. The blade explodes against the wall in a burst of flame and debris, bringing the ceiling down and sealing the only way out. That is when Si-Chen finally understands the reason behind the assassin's hidden rank. Nolan is a Portia, an awakener who joins raid parties for one purpose only, to hunt and murder his own teammates. Furious, Soleil yells at the assassin and demands to know what he is doing and who he really is. Tossing his cap aside, the hunter only laughs at the fear on her face and admits that he lives for the thrill of the hunt, finally revealing his true identity as Volt Lei, an A-rank lightning assassin, and now nothing stands between him and the rest of the party. Soleil Hay refuses to back down. Igniting her giant flame axe, she orders our boy to escape and find help while she stays behind to hold the line against the assassin. Volt Lei wastes no time, unleashing a barrage of crackling electric spheres straight at her. Soleil manages to deflect the initial onslaught, though the sheer force of the blasts leaves her rattled. The struggle only excites the killer, who boasts about how much he loves it when his prey fights back. Without hesitation, he hurls an even larger wave of lightning energy at the exhausted captain, and this time the spheres rain down without mercy. A massive series of explosions tears through the cavern, engulfing Soleil in a sea of flame and electricity. Volt laughs maniacally at the destruction, savoring the chaos he has created. As the smoke clears, the warrior captain lies defeated on the scorched ground. Volt lands near her and praises his luck, thrilled that such a clean setup has fallen right into his lap. He casually walks toward the defenseless captain, noting that since they are sealed away from the outside world, no one is coming to save her, which leaves him all the time he needs to play his sick game. Soleil lies beaten on the ground, barely clinging to consciousness. Volt Lei smiles, having no intention of letting her off easy, and cackling like a madman, he prepares to finish her off. But before he can strike, Si-Chen finally intervenes, delivering a kick to the assassin's face and sending him flying straight into a solid stone wall. Defeated and exhausted, Soleil weakly opens her eyes, trying to make out who has come to her rescue. She catches a glimpse of a dark silhouette standing tall in the firelight before finally passing out. With the witnesses out cold, our boy no longer needs to play the weak tamer. He takes off his glasses as yellow lightning crackles around his body, tells Leo to rest up, and decides to handle the rogue assassin himself. Meanwhile, Volt Lei rises from the dust, and instead of panicking, the psycho assassin looks thrilled, delighted to find a fellow high-level killer hiding among the rookies. Sensing our boy's lightning energy, the killer misreads the situation completely, assuming Si-Chen is a dual-classed stellar tamer secretly working as an assassin. He assumes they are after the same prize, believing Si-Chen has come to claim the rare A-rank weapon exclusive to their class. Furious at the thought of losing the loot he has spent 6 months tracking down, Volt Lei flies into a rage. Screaming that both the weapon and everyone's lives belong to him, he lunges toward our boy, but Si-Chen casually summons his dagger and deflects the strike. Refusing to let up, Volt Lei launches into a rapid-fire assault, determined to shred his opponent to pieces. Claws and steel clash in a rapid exchange of blows, yet Si-Chen doesn't even break a sweat, effortlessly parrying every strike without dropping his guard. Seeing this, Volt Lei finally starts to panic, unable to comprehend how this rookie has blocked his entire high-tier combo with just one hand. Desperate, he activates his flash step skill to outmaneuver his target and land a sneak attack. But our boy's reflexes are on another level entirely. Si-Chen counters with his own high-tier speed skill, Flash God, easily outstripping the rogue's movement, and lands a brutal slash right across the psycho's neck. Clutching his bleeding neck, the rogue assassin pants heavily, his mind racing. He is thoroughly shaken, realizing he has come just a split second away from being decapitated. Before he can even recover, Si-Chen teleports directly behind him, and the assassin barely has time to react before a kick slams into his face, launching him into the cavern wall. Blood drips onto the stone as the killer struggles to push himself up from the rubble. Kneeling in the wreckage, he wonders how a seemingly ordinary student could possess such overwhelming combat experience. Only then does he realize that his opponent hasn't even unleashed his full strength, and that the gap between them remains wider than any distance he could ever close. As Si-Chen calmly walks through the flames, a terrified Volt Lei wonders who this monster of a kid really is. He quickly realizes he stands no chance in a head-on confrontation, which forces him to change his strategy on the fly. Scrambling to his feet, he raises his hands and begs for a truce. In a desperate attempt to save his skin, the psycho offers to split the gear and cash from their fallen teammates 50-50, even sweetening the deal by offering our boy the exclusive A-rank weapon from the Overlord. Si-Chen's only response is to tighten his grip on his lightning-charged dagger. Ignoring the offer, he continues his slow, menacing march forward, leaving the killer frozen in surprise. Realizing his bribe has failed, Volt Lei smiles and accepts that the negotiation is over, finally understanding that he is dealing with a righteous hero type rather than a fellow plunderer. Showing his true colors, he activates his Thunder Form skill, summoning 2 crackling lightning clones and positioning them directly behind the defenseless Soleil and a barely conscious Gideon. Sensing the massive surge of magical energy at once, Si-Chen pauses and looks back to assess the threat. Holding the hostages with his newly created clones, Volt Lei grins and demands that our boy choose which of his teammates he wants to save, and whose head he is willing to take. On the cavern floor, the injured Thousand Lantern Fox slowly opens its eyes. Nearby, Volt Lei's lightning clones hold Soleil Hay and Gideon Lee hostage. He grins like a madman and taunts Si-Chen, telling him to pick which teammate lives and whose head he will take. But Si-Chen stays calm. He knows an assassin's clones are weak and easy to break. He gives a quick command, and Leo jumps into action. The cub unleashes his strangling star chains and binds both lightning clones at once. The glowing chains crush the copies until they burst into a blinding flash of light. Voltley uses the flash as the perfect distraction. He teleports right behind Si-Chen and strikes with his sharp energy claws, sure that he has caught his prey off guard. But Si-Chen is already one step ahead. He slides low and cuts off Voltley's right arm with a single slash, then coldly calls him pathetic. Voltley screams in agony. He can't believe a rookie just shut down the same ambush that let him slaughter countless veteran awakeners. Panic takes over, and Voltley tries to run before Si-Chen can kill him. But there is no escape. Sharp ice spikes shoot up through his legs and body, stop him in his tracks, and send him crashing to the floor. Panting in terror, the killer looks back at his attacker. To his horror, Si-Chen shows off another hidden power. He shifts into his level 25 Frostbone King form, covered in freezing ice armor, with Leo riding beside him on a floating ice seat. Voltley breaks down and screams. He finally understands that his opponent has far more than 2 classes and is a monster beyond his understanding. He begs for time, saying murder is illegal and that the authorities will hunt Si-Chen down. But Si-Chen just scoffs. He points out how pathetic it is for a ruthless killer to suddenly cry about the law. Desperate, Voltley throws away his pride and begs for his life, claiming it was all just a joke. Si-Chen isn't moved by any of it. He raises his icy hand to finish him off, and Voltley screams and sobs as his fate is sealed. But right before the final blow lands, a bright lightning circle flashes to life under Voltley, and electric swords appear in the air above him. A second later, the blades plunge straight into the assassin's body and pin him to the ground. Even our boy is caught off guard. It turns out the Thousand Lantern Fox has recovered, and it wants revenge on the killer who ambushed it earlier. Voltley screams as crackling electricity tears through his body, and the beast finishes him with its lightning heart-rend array, a massive blast that wipes him out completely. As smoke rises from the scorched crater, our boy studies the fox and notes that this overlord deals absurd damage on top of brutal crowd control. Then the beast turns its aggression towards Si-Chen and fires off a barrage of crackling lightning swords. Little Leo barks in alarm, but Si-Chen calmly tells his cub to relax. He switches classes and a massive pillar of purple demonic energy erupts around him. The system confirms the change, and he transforms into his level 25 Infernal Rakshasa form. Gripping his greatsword, he tells Leo the fight will be over in a second. The Thousand Lantern Fox senses the monster-like aura and freezes in terror. Before it can even blink, Si-Chen dashes straight at it, grips his sword, and swings down. The fox's eyes go wide with horror. Then, right before the blade connects, it frantically waves a white flag and begs for mercy. Caught off guard by the reaction, Si-Chen stops his weapon just in time, and the blade explodes into the ground behind the fox instead. Trembling on the stone floor, the defeated overlord holds up its little flag and formally surrenders. Si-Chen is stunned by how smart the creature is. Suddenly, the fox's electrical power starts to condense into glowing energy, and it solidifies into a rare A-rank weapon called the Lightning Flash Dagger. The blade gives massive buffs to speed, strength, and critical damage, and those buffs double for lightning assassins. Looking over the loot, Si-Chen finally understands why Voltley spent 6 months hunting down this exact dungeon. Moments later, the system pings him with a new notification, an incoming beast contract request. A small, weakened version of the Lightning Fox, named Ford, squeaks softly on the ground and offers to form a binding contract with him.